Hello everybody and welcome to Encounter Roleplay. My name is Will and today we are back and we have got a whole new season of shows starting, a whole new game starting, a whole new campaign, new players, new characters, same old DM. We are here once again to play The Long March, and we don't know anything about the campaign yet. We don't know about the players, the cast or anything, so we're going to go around the cast and crew, figure out who we are, who we're playing, and all that good shit. And if you're looking for our character sheets, you can find them there on the website, my friends. But let's start with Josh. Josh, how's it going, my friend? Dungeon Master of today's game.
Yeah, it's going good. It's going good. It's been a long. Well, this is a lot of stuff has kind of gone into this, and it's super excited. Bit nervous, but definitely pumped to ruin everyone's life, just in general.
I'm ready for you to ruin me.
It's true. It's true. But no, it's honestly, it's when I kind of got given the cast list and told sort of what I was getting, I was quite happy.
Fantastic.
I have fun with to make terrible, so super excited. I'll let you do introductions and then I'll get my jam on.
Let's do it. So let's start over the top right here, and we have Louise back today. How's it going, Louise?
Hello. I'm good. How are you?
I am well. This feels like have we ever played together? No, we have. Of course we have. It's been a while since we played together.
It's been a while,
yes.
But we're back at it again.
Yes.
Players again.
The old dynamic duo. So tell us about Kazna.
Yes, Kazna is a drow eldritch knight who is here today with her sister Zune, who you'll hear more about very shortly. She is a fighter and someone that has very much an insatiable bloodlust that this war has definitely helped with. But it's something that she wants to move on from. She wants to find out who she is outside of the battlefield, but is finding herself more and more unable to do so with the call for blood so rampant inside of her. So I'm very excited to see where she goes and see what wonderful tales and adventures Josh leads her down.
Fantastic. And we have TV back today playing Aureus. How's it going, my friend?
I'm very well. I'm excited to be back. I was in our campaign with you, Will, and friends. So I am playing Aureus. I am a land-based druid. And he was kind of an orphan, a wood elf druid. He was orphaned as a child, raised by fey creatures, has been isolated for 140 years, is a devout follower of Sylvanus, the god of nature. Sylvanus himself has called Aureus to help with the fiendish blight. So he's kind of discovering civilization as he goes, and he's going to be quite a jerk sometimes. But
what's new?
Yeah.
Fantastic. We have Laurelania back today. How's it going, Laurelania?
Good. It's good to be back. It's good to be back in the world of D&D.
Yeah.
Really looking forward to this. I have been a cleric in the past 4 campaigns that I'm in, and when I heard about this campaign in the background, I've been saving this character in my heart for a long time. I'm going to be a dark elf, necromantic survivor, follower of Iliostri, or not Iliostri, sorry, wrong one, Curionsily, there we go. I have escaped the Underdark thanks to Curionsili's visions that she had given me. I've taken my sister for my own reasons, hoping to march across the land and bring a whole bunch of undead friends to follow me.
Awesome, I can't wait. Tall Squall, we have Tall Squall back today. How's it going, my friend?
Hey, how are you guys doing today?
I'm well.
I am back as Gavin Fjordhammer, paladin of Fields from other episodes here on ERP. After the Samurai Sigil war, he found himself once again in another war, and now we're going to find out a whole lot more about that. But he is a paladin of St. Cuthbert who, through weird things that happened in chat and through donations, had a hand removed and then replaced with a sort of mummified necromantic hand of the Raven Queen. So he is sort of serving 2 different deities right now. Also, in the course of his adventures, if you guys have followed along, he met his true love, a vampire named Signe, who in the end of the Samurai Signal, he helped move past the veil and into the afterlife with the help of the Raven Queen. So he has been marching through this war that has savaged the land, and trying to remain hopeful and also balanced between his own internal sort of struggle between life and death and the gods that he serves.
Awesome. I actually went back and rewatched the video on YouTube, which is like Gavin and Signe say goodbye. It's like, oh God, my heart, no. It's so good. It's so good. As for myself, I will be playing Gregor Tuscan today. He is a dwarf. He is part fighter, part warlock. He leads a band of convicts, basically, and keeps them in check via his infernal pact with the greater old ones. So he's an interesting guy. He inspires mostly fear in them, but a little bit of inspiration in the form of hope and courage as well. But he is quite fond of decimations. So, you know, occasionally he'll end up killing lots of people. But, you know, we're in a war, so shit happens. So Josh, tell us, or introduce us, I guess, to the campaign a little bit, what we're going to be doing here today.
Yeah, so as you guys can tell from how everyone's introduced themselves, this is a lawful good campaign, really going to be the beacons of hope in this civilization, and we're looking to restore peace and honor. But all joking aside, welcome everyone to this is a homebrew world. This is something of my own creation I've been working on for a little while now, and this is the continent of Ita. Now, Ita is a continent for whom peace is a distant memory. For the past 10 or so years, a war has been raging, a war born of the hatred of tiefling kind. In this world, tieflings get a lot of jip, and we're going to explore some stuff. This is one of our more serious campaigns, so there's going to be a lot of pretty grim things that these guys have been through, and the people around them have been through. In Ita, tieflings are born when a fiend or a demon is somehow involved in the communion of the parents. It doesn't necessarily mean they were physically present at the time. Maybe one of them worshipped a demon, knowingly or unknowingly. Warlocks sometimes are unaware of, where they draw their power from. There's loads of ways it can happen, or maybe they're just a cursed individual. Tieflings, actually, there's quite a few of them, and a lot of them are born straight away into slavery. They're cast out by families. It's considered a great dishonor to have a tiefling, to give birth to a tiefling, to have one in your family. So a lot of them are they lose their family title and they are tossed aside, and they make free labor, having next to no rights at all in this world. They are considered items, property, and that sort of thing. So they really have had a terrible life, and it's mostly because of how they are born. They've never had a homeland, which is a key thing. If you have a homeland, you can sort of defend it. You can defend it against outsiders and the people who persecute you. But these people have no way of defending themselves. They are amongst us, and they are beneath us in this world. So they've got a lot of shtick over the years. And a long time ago, I'm sure, there's no clear record of when this was, an uprising started, and it was sort of surrounding an individual who came to be known as Hex, a tiefling who one day threw off his shackles of oppression, and he killed his masters and fled. And he fled far and wide across a vast continent of multiple kingdoms and multiple different cultures. And finally, he traversed the Black Mountains, which are far, far to the east of this world. Now, Black Mountains being a huge dwarven territory, and beyond which is the old Orc Wastes. They are the most barren place on the continent. There is nothing that grows there. There is no food. There is no game. There is no water. It is just rock and dust and ash in every direction for miles and miles. And that's as far as charts go. And he vanished, and everyone presumed that he would be dead. Unfortunately, this was not the case. And after a few years, he sparked more hope for these people, these downtrodden tieflings who began to migrate. They broke their chains, they fled their masters, they killed and they scrapped and they fought their way through the mountains. And the dwarves mostly let them go because it's not their business, and they're going to die out there anyway, so who cares? That was the way of thought for most people until about 11 years ago. Demons began to make themselves known from the east. Now, these things came forth, and at first the attacks seemed random, and then they built and they built and they built over time until eventually an army marched out of the east, out of the barren wastes, and no one knew where it came from, but it numbered fiends, demons, devils, and things that once were known as tieflings and now embraced their infernal heritage and became known as the Fiend Touch. These mutated, half-demon, half-tiefling creatures full of rage and hatred of the other races. And as they came swarming forward, they took the Black Mountains in 2 years and began to encroach. And this has been a 10-year-long war, and 7 years of it, the first 7 years, were all spent retreating for most of our players here. Finally, in the last 3 years of the war, a group emerged known as the Pentaval Five. If you can imagine, if you will, the stereotypical party of level 20 adventurers, you've got all the different stereotypes, and they came forth, the five of them, and rallied the troops. And if you guys have ever played any module that Wizards of the Coast and other people put out there, they are the typical party that, you go to, you do all the missions, you get all the allegiances, you complete all the side quests, and at the end you have the big final battle, and you bring forth a huge army. Well, this is what this party have done, and the Pentaval Five now stand in the final years of the war, right at the edge of a cliff. And this cliff looks down upon the Orc Wastes, and beyond which is the fortress of Hex, far in the distance. So we have seen the war come and go, and along the way, the world has been ravaged and changed, and along the way, a lot of people have been caught up in this army that now marches, this great alliance of folk. Now, most campaigns would focus on this powerful, huge, heroic Pentaval Five who have smite dragons, and they have, they've fought demons and huge creatures. But in every war, there are those who just simply get caught in the wake. There are those who aren't the heroic badasses of the world. They're simply war-weary folk who end up on the front lines. And that is where our story picks up. And we will see a huge barren wasteland before us, and on top of a giant cliff, beneath which is an army that is milling around of maybe 100,000 warriors from every different background and race, huge machines of war from the Dwarven kingdoms of the Black Mountain, and you see beasts of war as well. The clouds are gathering, it's dark, it's just coming to first light, and standing on top of this cliff face looking down upon the army with the command tents billowing behind them and the abandoned camp behind that is a small group of individuals who don't march with the rest of the forces. These are individuals who are not your stereotypical heroes. And with that, let's have a little bit of a character description for everyone. As we have 2 drow, we have I believe Gavin is human, this huge hulking man, and we also have a druid and a dwarf. The druid being a wood elf or half elf?
A wood elf.
Wood elf. So these are the figures that currently remain on the cliffside, and beneath you, moved down the cliff face by huge machines forged by the dwarves in their underground castles and fortresses. These huge lifts have just spent the last maybe 3-4 hours transferring 100,000 troops in giant elevators that run along tracks which have been mounted to the walls by huge machines. And the army is now there, it's forming up. But you guys have yet to be briefed on what part you will play in this final battle. So I'm going to start with Louise, Kazna, and her sister. Where are you guys? Where do you find yourself? What's your last minute preparation? You'll have your individuals, and let's just get a brief view of, what kind of men serve under your command.
Yeah, well, the men that kind of serve with Kazna are the absolute lowest of the low, most desperate of the desperate that could possibly be found on this battlefield. The people who have nothing left to lose and yet everything to gain. And the reason she runs a group like that is because they're the only ones that are crazy enough to be with her at the very, very front, taking on the entire brunt of the damage. I mean, it's got to the point where she's had to just stop bothering remembering their names because so many of them keep dying and keep getting replaced. But that's the only place on the battlefield where she feels most alive, where she can get that bloodlust that she craves so dearly. And those are the only people that will do so with her.
Yeah, they're truly the damned, the desperate, the people who have lost everything. And simply, some of them want vengeance, some of them just want meaning, and some of them, you get the feeling, probably just there because, they want to do something with their life before they die. So it's a real desperate band of brothers you've managed to gather. But speaking of brothers, your sister is also there. So fantastic Laura Lania, let's hear about Zune.
I believe we had talked briefly about Kazna and I kind of co-ruling a contingent of people. And Zune, my character, is almost always atop her warhorse, watching her sister and watching these band of people that she really doesn't give a damn about one way or the other. Her sister kind of provides for her what she needs, being able to continually move forward and continually provide new and undead bodies for her to look at and examine and continue to grow her intelligence on what she presumes is Curionsely's overall vision for her. She doesn't really care if the war succeeds or fails, just that it keeps moving towards these war-touched fiends so that she can find whatever new spell component she desires. Her horse is almost in calm and uncaring as she is. She stands about 5'2", silver-haired, charcoal black skin, blue eyes, and is almost always deadpan, searching into the distance unless she's being taught something by her superior commanders, in which case she's always giving them an icy cold stare. It's only her sister that seems to be able to get any kind of emotion out of reaction from her whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, I think Zune is a very driven individual who, has got a lot of availability, which is nice. And I'm presuming that not everyone who marches under your command is entirely with the living. There might be one or two in
sometimes
there.
every now and then we have an undead contingent, which she occasionally will try and use to spook the people under Kazna's, but I'm assuming that they really don't give a damn since they are the lowest of the low.
Yeah, it's a real, it's pretty depressing place. You would understand why it is that you have not necessarily been permitted to sort of move with the majority of the army. You and a few other commanders have sort of been separated, and there have been a lot of times when the commanders you serve, the generals from the different kingdoms and the advisors, they're perfectly happy with expending the people beneath you. And I think it maybe, it's been one of those things where Kazna and Zune have come back so many times and no one else has come back. You've sort of gained some respect from the fact that you just refuse to go down, which is quite a feat. And I believe you guys make pretty intimidating presence and pretty intimidating team on the battlefield. So
the superior training of the Underdark, of course.
Yeah, of course,
absolutely.
But it's not on our level, so
yeah, no, they can't really do anything to us.
Indeed. And speaking of terribly arrogant people, let's have a look at Will for a moment, because we've got another group of not so desperate, but at the same time possibly not the most conventional group of soldiers ever, as these people are damned in an entirely different way. The people that serve under Gregor. So,
Gregor is a dwarf, and so he's got this kind of like mat of greyed hair. He's actually quite young for a dwarf, or rather I should say he's not old for a dwarf. But the war has greyed him terribly. So his hair is thinning, which he's quite ashamed about. His beard is even thinning as well, which is one of the most virulent diseases a dwarf can gain, I suppose. So he's a little bit self-conscious about that, but he hides it, for he is not only a fighter but a warlock as well. So he's kind of got this bone dagger from which he uses to cast his spells from as his focus, and the people around him are convicts, basically. They have been mostly, I'd imagine, they are deserters. And so they have been sworn into service with Gregor Tuscan, who was once a captain of the guard, but nowadays that's no longer a position which exists because there's nowhere to fucking guard. So when he went into the army, he pretty naturally took up the role of kind of rounding people up and forcing them into servitude if they had fled or stolen from the army's supply camp, or basically done anything which is against Gregor's very two-dimensional understanding of what war is. and what soldiery is. He definitely believes being a soldier is like an art. It's definitely a career rather than something that anyone can just do. And so he treats these people with a fair amount of disdain because they because they're pretty much against everything that he stands for, that we need to fight for our country, our people. And so whilst he has a pact with a warlock, he's by no means evil in nature or necessarily infernal himself. He uses the kind of power of that entity to keep them in check. And he's basically sworn this deal, this pact, in order to have this power in exchange for his life. So he's literally put his life on the line for the deal, that he will have the power to keep these people in line to do what he says. But eventually, this demon will be allowed to take his soul, which is something that Sir Tuscan is absolutely okay with, for the most part. And once the war is won, which we will win soon, he is sure.
Yeah,
so exactly. That's Gregor.
And then everything will be fine. There's no sort of long-standing consequences of such things. It's all sorted.
I mean, we've had to make a lot of sacrifices in this war. What's one more?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Speaking of people who know a thing or two about sacrifices and what it is to serve, we're going to look over to Gavin. Mr. Tallsquall. Gavin has a slightly different makeup in his group of followers, probably quite considerably less. The desperate, the damned, and the crazy who served these two drow mistresses probably number anywhere between a given time between maybe 50 to all the way up to at times of true desperation, hundreds. It really varies, and certainly now there's plenty of them milling around. So far as convicts go, there's plenty who have been picked up along the way. Gavin's number is quite dramatically smaller, but at the same time to be feared. Tell us about the 18 men who serve with you.
So, yes, I have a group of 18 men who serve underneath of me. Gavin, who was originally a blacksmith by trade, as you said, is sort of a towering figure of a man, about 6'8", 270 pounds. He worked in a village that used draft horses to clear granite boulders from the fields. And so pushing around those basically built him to pretty big size, sort of Nordic looking in nature, but with this sort of flaming, deep red hair. But in his devotion to St. Cuthbert, he originally was leading a group of 12 paladins and clerics of St. Cuthbert, truly on a mercy mission before I think general news of the war had really made it and people realized what dire circumstances they were in. And during a skirmish in Breckendale, which is one of the cities that sort of held the line, quite frankly, for, I believe you said, Josh, for almost 2 years, and that probably the West would have been decimated had Breckendale, a very militaristic region, hadn't held it together. And when arriving there with his men and clerics and paladins, was sent they were a bit of a throwaway crew. They were not local, and this military group, military region was very much, if you weren't in their army, you were basically a contractor and expendable. Was sent in because almost on a mission for morale, because there was a big information that a giant push was going to come in to the city through the wall, and there was an orphanage in the way. Upon arriving, Gavin discovered that this orphanage wasn't in fact just in the way, it was the target where some of these fiends were transforming the children because of their young age and not quite hadn't reached puberty, still were pretty malleable in their form into basically a pack, almost 100 strong, of aberrations and demonic children, to both strike fear and just horror into these people, because it was their kids. Their fallen soldiers' children who had been changed and now were being thrown against the forces that were holding out in Breckenridge. And they, using their divine magics, were able to make it back. But it's then that Gavin realized this was no ordinary war and decided to ask for a boon from his other deity, the Raven Queen. And after grasping the wedding band of his departed wife, Signe, or the vampire gone through veil, the Raven Queen sent 6 of her guard, known as the Returned, 6 vampires who are looking for salvation, who are trying to earn their way into the Raven Queen's favor in order to gain passage into an afterlife. And so Gavin is basically he's in command of 12 paladins and clerics of St. Cuthbert and 6 vampire soldiers of the Raven Queen, who he is basically all in search of both salvation and to deliver hope to the people. And the name of his company is Hope's Return, to try to somehow heal this land by first getting rid of these fiends and demons, but then try to bring back some kind of belief that there is salvation to be found at the end of all of this.
So Gavin has it's pretty heavy burden weighing on him, especially the balance is key with Gavin, having to sort of weigh up the difference between serving one deity and the other, and certainly makes an interesting band of people. At first, it might not seem with the paladins and clerics that there's any reason to keep them separated, but always lurking in the shadows, he is the man who, often has more than one shadow. And his personal cadre, not the kind of people you would expect to be marching with some of the people that are down there. Common folk, there are levies, there are people from all different walks of life. And some of them might not necessarily understand the need to side with creatures that most people would consider very evil. So the separation is kind of key. And finally, speaking of separation and isolation, we have the wonderful Aureus from Aero. So Aero, playing someone who's kind of, all of this is very unfamiliar and probably a little, it's probably a little bit upsetting, or it probably draws out anger for a druid, especially one as devout as you, to see a land that is so ravaged and barren. What's Aureus like? Give us a vibe, give us a description, that kind of jazz.
Sure. So Aureus is kind of an interesting upbringing. He was actually found as a child by a dryad named Ferox and a satyr named Aureus, from which he derives his name from. He was actually raised by the Fae people in the south after his caravan. He was found as a babe in the caravan. You can read about my backstory, all that good stuff. So he very easily became very druidic, and because he was amongst the Fae creatures and the creatures of the grassland and the forests, he was very isolated from civilization. And this is in the far south, away from the war, south of the Elven kingdom, south of the Underdark, and didn't really have much contact with civilization growing up. For almost 130 some years, he was pretty much isolated, very little contact with people, and he was very much devout to Sylvanus, the druidic god of nature. So one of the interesting parts about his story is that actually when he was communing with nature at one point, there was one of the vast grassland creatures named a bullet that was dying from a pack of adventurers who was poisoned. And it's one of his tenets as a druid to basically create the balance of nature. So as he was attempting to draw the bullet from the ground to cure it and commune with this creature, the bullet burrowed up and accidentally pierced Aureus's chest with his jaw, and the jaw actually broke off in his chest. And as Aureus lay there dying, and the creature lay there dying next to him, Aureus attempted to mend his own wound, but he couldn't. So what ended up happening is that the shard in his chest actually ended up becoming his druidic focus, and it pulsed with nature, and he was able he was able to actually remove it, but he decided to leave it there as a reminder of himself that he shouldn't, that he's a part of nature. And from that creature, he actually melded himself a breastplate as an additional reminder that nature is balanced. Nature is everything. You're a part of it. You're not above it. So that's kind of the whole tenet. He's very devout to Sylvanus. He's very keep the balance. And what he began to notice towards the end of his isolation is that the Fey creatures slowly began disappearing. So he communed with Sylvanus and the Fey creatures, and Sylvanus basically provided an image of him, of a very dark, brooding image to the north, and the Fey creatures leaving, and Sylvanus pleading with the Fey creatures to give aid, but the Fey creatures didn't want to stay in this world anymore. They wanted to actually leave and close the portals to the world so the world didn't spill into their own world. So this concerned Aureus very, very much. And Sylvanus tasked him, Aureus, to basically head north and aid these people in any way they can. He doesn't have any connection. He doesn't have a mercenaries or armies with him. He's actually just a solo mercenary. He just kind of flies around in eagle form and just gives aid to these people wherever he can as part of his task from Sylvanus. And he's just here to provide and restore nature as best he can.
Is he alone? I presume he travels apart from other druids, but so far as sort of nature's wrath itself, has he brought anything with him, or is he a man sort of lost in a sea of unfamiliar faces?
He's just here. He's just discovering civilization. He's known to summon dryads of the forest and woodland creatures at will to aid him and woodland creatures, but he travels mainly alone, and he just beckons. At times, he'll beckon the will of the elements of nature to help him out, elementals and thunderstorms. But he is just here to give aid to this group now because he stumbled upon them. He's become known throughout most of the armies as a figure that shows up and sways the tide of battle. He'll show up and mend wounds of wounded soldiers after a battle. He'll show up mid-battle and create giant walls of stone to manipulate the battlefield. And he's become a very good boon to the forces of the allies, and a very much so
something that is feared by the.
When the fiends see him, they know something's not very good. It's become quite a thing to fear for the fiends. So
yeah, infamous is he's the kind of force that will arrive whether bid to or not, do his thing, and leave very suddenly. A man of mystery, should we call him? So we have these figures sort of stretched out across the cliff face, looking down as the army starts to muster. Now that the plan is, as it stands, is far in the distance there is a huge set of mountains that stand sort of alone, almost like the rest of the land is almost entirely flat. The cliff face that you look down at the bottom, it just stretches out in plains of unbroken, almost like salt flats. And they stick out from a mile. It's the furthest anyone would have ever traveled would be to the fortress of Hex, and not many people return. Certainly no scouts have returned with any information about the numbers of the enemy. The only thing you have on your side is the fact that daybreak is coming, which is a blessing for most that march in this army. However, for quite a few people in this party, daybreak throws a lot of complications your way. Drow being famously very unfond of daylight, but also vampires amongst the group suffering quite drastically as well. So there is this urgency that you guys know. You're not really sure why you've been held back for so long, but the command tent behind you, where some of the leaders who certainly know about you, and you've come to treat with regularly, are standing it's standing there. The flags are blustering, and in the background behind the camp, which is entirely abandoned, you will be able to make out far in the distance the rocky black mountains, of which you recently traversed. There is a lot going on. There's a lot of noise. There's no way this is going to be a subtle thing. You can't mask the sound of 100,000 men marching. even with all the druids and the various other things you have. But it's certainly going to make for a nasty surprise when they come rushing forth. But you look out, and you guys will be very much aware that there has been no sign of any opposition, and that is not a good thing in a lot of people's minds. And as you guys stare out and are pestered by individuals in your group, you will be called into the command tent by two guards, both of them elven, both of them high elves, incredibly tall, wearing heavy armor, which is uncommon amongst their standing. They have glaives each, and they are quite clearly elite guards with breastplates that show that they bear the symbol of the Empire far in the west, the Elven Empire of Elsium. And they will beckon you forth, summoning you with not a word spoke between the two of them, as it appears the other commanders are ready to speak to you.
Yeah, I will. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
I think Gregor will take a look at these two elves, probably a bit distastefully, and trudge on over through the mud.
You notice that a bunch of your men are currently sat in the dirt. They currently have what looks to be a dwarven urn or pot or something, and you definitely remember they didn't have that before you marched through the dwarven Black Mountains. It's something they've recently acquired, and they're currently gambling on it. They've got it turned upside down, and you can see that there are runes and things of various important. It tells of it's one of those urns that tells a great story as you read around the circumference. It's all in pictograms, and it's someone's family lineage, and it is upside down. It is caked in dirt. It's bejeweled, and they're just gambling dice on top of it. One of them winks at you, gives you a no shits given grin. They've sort of come to accept at this point that this is about as far as it can go. It can't get any worse than this.
Right.
They're probably about to go to their deaths. They're getting a bit cocky.
Yeah. What is it this time?
He just says, sorry, boss. I just, we're just having a wager. I figured we might as well bet everything we got, and we're probably all fucked, so...
You ain't got nothing to bet on. What are you betting on?
Well, we're betting on who dies first. Currently...
No, that works. That's good. Carry on.
They give you a protracted salute with many a finger, and there's a quite light-hearted mood. You notice a couple of them look much more forlorn and grim, and seem to be scribbling notes. They're probably sending messages to families that will. I mean, they probably aren't even where they last spoke to them. It's a pretty mixed message, but the ones who have been with you for the longest have pretty much given up on everything, and are just there to live it out and see where the cards fall.
I can respect
that. As you enter, everyone else sort of comes forth. I presume Aureus sort of gets quite a wide berth. People stay out of the way. Even the guards give you sort of a gentle nod. No one sort of makes eye contact with you. Aureus sort of floats through this, the very few men that are still left around, with almost a degree of reverence, really. It's a figure who is very misunderstood, and you know that a lot of people have either formulated very strong opinions about you already, be it good or bad, or have absolutely no idea what to make of you. How does Aureus take this weird... I mean, this is his first sort of meeting with a large group of people, and they are being weird.
So, Aureus is used to this kind of thing. He actually... he was in his evil form, actually, just recently. He landed and kind of transformed into his human form here. And he noticed the importance of this tent and these elves. So he disregards most of these people. He's come used to this type of behavior. He's got twigs in his hair. His teeth are rotting. He's got a broken nose that's been mended a couple of times. He's lived in the wild for a long time. So he's used to this type of thing and people regarding him this way. He doesn't look like anyone else. So he approaches the two elven guards and he says, "Is there anything that I can do here? Sylvanas has willed me to this place. This army seems in need of much."
They seem to be a little bit taken aback, and give me an insight check. We'll have the first roll of the game. Give me a little insight check to see what you garner from these strange, faraway people.
Should probably pull up my character sheet. That would help.
Bloody hell, he's looking to help.
Yeah.
What a weirdo!
He might be the first guy I ever met that's wanted to help an elf.
That's nice.
Oh. Off to a start with a 24. Nice. So on a 24, sort of they seem to be looking at you a little bit in awe, and there's probably a reason. It's probably a bit of a reputation thing. You also note that favoring an eagle form as you look to their breastplate, the Empire of Elsium actually has an eagle as its sigil, along with a great deal of embellishment and runes that go along with it. But you will absolutely realize that there's a lot of people who could take this as a sign, and these men sort of say, "Yes, you are bid to step inside. The commanders of what's left of them, shall we call them the last command, they are waiting to brief you." And he sort of looks to you a little confused as he gazes around at the other people who are gathered here. You don't fit in even amongst sort of the outcasts, which is something, maybe that's a blessing, who knows. But he pulls back this huge sort of almost curtain, and inside you can see that there's a huge war table. A dwarf has just marched in, brazen and bold, and there are several figures sat in the shadows. A lot of smoke in the air, and not a lot of light, actually.
Gavin, as going in, greets the two guards by name and asks of the other people in his regiment, because that's what Gavin does, is gets to know the people around him, and shakes their hand, sort of puts a hand on their shoulder and sees how they're doing, and asks of any other member of his regiment that he might know of or heard stories of, and if they are well, and or whether they have moved on, as will happen.
Yeah, you sort of speak to a couple of people, and you will notice that there appear to be absolutely none of the six who are the guards of the Raven Queen. They appear to have been absent, but this is not entirely unusual. They are the kind of folks who will appear when needed.
I meant the guards, the two guards who were summoning us, the elven guards.
Right. Okay. Cool.
Sorry.
You can speak. Yeah. No. That's fine. So the guards start, and they seem to smile. You get a little bit of a cold vibe from them, but they smile, and sort of you drop a name or two, and finally one actually seems to recognize, and he sort of looks you up and down, and says, "You know Sylvanian."
No, but we are all of one against this force, and we will have to stick together in this if we are all, or whoever's left, are going to recover from this long decade of warfare.
They nod slowly, and one of them sort of seems. Hey, you get one of them seems to be warming to you a little, and one of them very much doesn't. And the one who doesn't sort of shifts in his armor, and you can see you can almost hear that the sound of leather as he clasps his glaive hilt very, very tightly in this gauntleted fist. But he doesn't respond. He doesn't say anything. He doesn't speak out. And I mean, you get that these are men who have probably not slept in quite a few days.
Mm-hmm.
The march from the Black Mountains has been harrowing, to say the least. So he says, "Yes, it is true. Please, they're waiting for you."
Of course. I thank you for your service. Let us get on with this business.
He nods and says, "And I you." And he gets a sharp look from his friend, but he doesn't make eye contact. And inside you'll find much the same, albeit add an Aureus to the mix. we also have two individuals standing amongst almost a rabble, a chaotic mix. A lot of people with hyperactive chatter who sound a little distressed, a little excited, a little angry. There's a very strange kind of atmosphere building around them. But in the center, you will see that there's about 5 or 6 of them who stand eerily still. They don't move. They don't join in with the conversations. And if we imagine the camera panning up slightly, you will notice that as from the outside, it looks like this is a great throng of people. In the center, there are this small group of people, this clutch of people, that on second glance maybe number in the 10s to 15s, who are entirely separate. They are in a center and no one is straying too close to them. There's a good 5-10 feet gap. You have this rabble before you, Kazna and Zune. They seem thirsty for blood, angry, scared, chaotic, and some of them eerily quiet, which Zune would know all too much about. And the rest of the people who were sort of standing looking across the cliff and the army below have transitioned inside the tent, leaving you guys in peace. The two sisters sort of looking on, one astride a horse, the other on foot.
I didn't hear the last that. My headphones kind of just broke. Something about I heard.
Did I miss my line? What's my cue?
Sorry, line, please, line.
And now he's muted.
Oh no!
Now you'll really miss it.
Yeah, so you were there. You were standing, sort of staring down at this gathering army, this final push. You've got the rabble around you. They're sort of giving you some distance. None of them are quite stupid enough to get too close to within striking distance of particularly lethal pair of drow mistresses. What's the mood between the two of you?
Kazna she's a little bit older than Zune, thus takes a bit more of a protective stance over her. They fought together in the Underdark and they fight together here. And due to certain things that happened in the Underdark, they can't quite return. And Zune seems to be currently, at least, the only chance that they both have of creating something up here that they can call a home. And so she's very much wanting to make sure that at least Zune gets out of this alive. She doesn't care about any of the men that she's controlling.
Yeah. How about Zune?
Which is unfortunate because Zune doesn't really care about anything except for herself and grabbing more pieces to add to her undead collection. But she knows that following behind her sister's larger sword steps, I guess we'll call it, will keep her protected and ever moving forward. And she's always keeping an eye on the people that are close to her and her warhorse, Morty.
So yeah, you the rabble is sort of starting to get a bit anxious, and they are looking down at these machines that have transferred everyone. Are basically two huge pylons with heavy chain that have been attached to the side of the mount, this cliff face, by giant bipedal dwarven mechanisms. Each of them is driven by 4 dwarves who sit on sort of like a platform, like chairs, that sit just behind this thing's where its chest would be. Its face mounted in its chest. They seem like what we recognize as sort of loaders, dock workers, these huge constructs. And they've carried these plates that have ferried everyone around down onto the plains, all the way from the Black Mountains. But now they appear to be gearing up for war. And these lifts have so far traveled everyone down there successfully. But a couple of your people have got right to the edge and are looking down. The drop is maybe 500-600 feet.
They can make it.
It's you know.
I push everybody off.
Is it like the wall from Game of Thrones, that kind of lift thing that they have going on there?
Sort of, except the size would be dramatically larger. These are plates, so they're probably each about 600 feet long. and they probably stretch out about 100 foot. And they have been carried here by several of these dwarven behemoths, attached to the side and then lowered by these mechanisms that they've anchored to the side of the cliff. It's worked blissfully well, which is a welcome rejoice amongst the command, who have had a lot of bad luck along the way. Just getting these things to work, to transfer the men down there, so you might actually get this done today, is something that a lot of prayed for, tell you.
Yeah, they probably started building from the top and had a lot of people drop off. So.
Yeah, exactly. So, Zune and Kazna, you are sort of being summoned. These are less of elves summoning you, so however much disdain that brings out.
Kazna doesn't care about anything, really. Politics-wise, race-wise, she doesn't give a shit. All she cares about is someone dying? Is it because of her? If yes, things are fine. So she's headed. She's wherever she needs to go. She is going.
Yeah,
Following behind my sister.
You guys make it easily into the tent and find that there are a couple of individuals around. The first one who instantly spots you and has up until now been incredibly quiet, incredibly withdrawn, sat in the shadows. He leans forward, and everyone present in the room will notice that he is elven distinctly. He is definitely not a wood elf, definitely not a drow, most likely a high elf. And he leans forward wearing black robes with simple embellishment, nothing too fancy. And his hands touch the table on which a giant map is drawn out, and there is just slight crackles of energy as he scowls absolute hatred at the two drow that have entered. For this is Tavian Crowell, and he's one of the highest ranked generals coming all the way from the Elven Kingdom of Elysium. And he has made in no way quiet about his hatred for you two. He's probably been the reason a lot of your missions have been next to suicidal, and he makes no apology at every time you meet.
Am I in this chamber as well?
Also,
sorry, Josh.
Yeah. This is everyone gathered together. Okay. Yeah.
I smile at him. Just
I do a full-on mock curtsy that I would give to a matron mother, still deadpan staring him in the eyes so that he knows that every action of mine is full of absolute bullshit. How might we be of service to you today?
Yes, let's make this quick.
Yes, sister. We have more important things to do.
Much more important.
He looks particularly pissed off, but he holds it. He holds it together. And as he sort of looks around, the other prominent figure in the room is the massively overweight man. There's no way around this. There's no way around him, in fact. He is just gluttonous, to say the least. He has a resplendent ginger beard. His face is half burnt off. He is heavily scarred, heavily muscled, but a lot of it seems to be gut. He carries an arming sword, not particularly impressive one, but you would know this is because Hercian Porter is someone who no longer takes part in fighting. He is a strategist from the Kingdom of Breckendale, and he don't fight no more because as you move around the table, you will see one of his legs from about mid-thigh is entirely made of, it's just a wooden stump, essentially. He lost it quite dramatically to a fiend bit it off, a huge creature, the likes of which up until that point had never been seen, tore his leg off, and he refused to die. He just straight up said no. He rolled like an absolute boss on his death saves, and this guy has demanded to remain as close to the front lines as he physically can. He's cunning, he's jovial, he has that kind of disposition of a man who is just always happy to be helping. But you guys have heard legend of, he's not a guy to fuck around. Back in his fighting days, sort of vicious individual and a cunning tactician. Finally, the other individual in the room, and an individual who actually Aureus might have heard of, will be Arvin Bale. Now, Arvin Bale is completely unlike his two compatriots. He is a farmer. That is it. That is literally his profession. He's never served as a soldier. He's never fought in a battle. Arvin Bale is the head of a coalition known as the New Free Fields Coalition. And way back beyond the front line in a kingdom known as Rivercroft, they have taken a huge portion of land with local wood elves, druids, and farmers. And these individuals have just revitalized the land. For the first time ever, there is fresh food reaching the front lines. Rations aren't, in desperately short supply. And he is sort of spearheading this. He's in charge of sort of the rations, the food supplies, everything like that. And he comes representing those who support the armies but don't fight. He's also not particularly popular, as he is now considered one of the most powerful men in all of Ita, and that is because he has wealth, he has land, and he can grow food, and there is not a lot of land that is still fertile out there. So these are the individuals who greet you. There is Arvin, who is a human. There is also the human in Hercian Porter, who is the strategist of Breckendale, and finally Tavian Crow, who is the High Elven mage. And they look to you and sort of wait for everyone to filter in. And Hercian looks to everyone and says, well, here we all are then. It's been a long time coming. How are the men?
Can we get away with the niceties and just get straight to the fucking point, please? What do you need us to do? Who's gonna die this time? All that shite, then we can get on with it.
He winces, but Tavian Crow sort of smiles cunningly and leans towards the dwarf and just says, well, we wouldn't want our brethren in the dwarf kingdoms to miss such a resplendent guard captain as yourself, so hopefully you'll make through this encounter unscathed.
I can only hope that you do too, Tavian. Now please, back to business. That is why we're here, is it not?
Hey, what the she-elf said.
Very well. News has arrived that our scouts have returned for the first time in, well, as far as memory serves at the moment. They've returned scouting at least 10-15 miles to the east. That's never happened before in these lands. They've always been attacked, but none of them encountered a damn thing out there. The enemy is still waiting for us, but we don't know where they lie. And that's quite a worrying thing for someone who is committing so many of his kingdom's forces to this fight. And Hercian nods and says, aye, it's been something of trouble amongst the men. We've a lot of people are worried that the true enemy hasn't revealed itself yet. And, well, we go marching out there and there's an ambush out in the wastes. Could scatter the men, could do all sorts of things. We don't have the forces left behind to... And he sort of looks for the right word, and Arvin takes over and sort of leans in, looking a little uncomfortable, weighing in with such powerful individuals, and says, what he's trying to say is, if we lose this, we might lose the war. It's all very well and good what we've achieved so far, but if they push us back, if our army scatters, if we break the line, then, well, what little forces we have the other side of the mountains and what little forces the dwarves could muster wouldn't hold them for more than a couple of months, and then we have no further armies to hold them back. They'd ravage the entire lands. So, this is it. And we're worried we're walking into an ambush out there.
Hey, probably.
Hersian, you know strategy better than anyone.
Aye.
What from the land would you say, if it were you, facing an army of 100,000, walled in by a cliff, where would you be? Would you be in the keep, preparing for siege, or is there some geological formation, something about this land that we're not taking into account? How would you make your last stand?
He chuckles and sort of like hefts his leg, and a huge stump lands on the table, and he says, I don't do much standing anymore, but, well, when I do, if I were to stand, I'd stand on ground I knew, ground that the enemy didn't. This is definitely it. And what with the razor-like buffs we found out there, and the crevices in the ground, the sudden pitfalls, they could come at us from any angle, and they could be anywhere. These people are desperate, and these people are on the brink of losing. That's the kind of savagery that brings out the worst in a cornered beast. I worry that we might end up with them running through our ranks. We have to keep our formations tight. We also need to know what lies ahead in the land. Spring a trap with few men and let them, damned awful as it sounds, let them take the fall for the rest of the army, then, well, we might actually make it with most of our forces all the way to the fortress itself.
That's quite a common tactic in the Underdark. You
I
send
don't-
your fodder in, and you wait to see who dies, and you pinpoint the true location of the enemy. I quite like this plan.
Hey,
say you-
sacrifices have to be made. Sorry, Shield.
It's
A
war.
senseless waste of life. Have you not sent the druids under cloak of invisibility to scout these lands? They can commune with the land, and they can find the location of these creatures. Rest assured, I offered my service in such a way.
There's a moment of sort of like pause. Everyone assesses. Aureus and Arvin looks to you. Arvin is most certainly not a druid. He has no skill or whatever, but he deals with druids. Certainly not like you, druids who belong to clans and the like. But he looks to you and smiles, and he says, it's quite a sad smile. He says, the only problem with that is the land. It's not particularly forthcoming with information at the moment. I mean, the few druids that we have in our number, they went with the scouting party. It's a barren land out there. It's sick, poisoned, tainted. There's no life. There's nothing. There's no trees. There's no scrub. Even the weeds themselves, they don't grow out there. It's just dust and ash.
What
as
he's
far as the
saying
eye
is
can
they
see.
no bugger all.
There's a genuine wince from Hersian, but Davian nods and says, yes, it appears we know very little about the up-and-coming terrain, which is why we require a small force to push ahead.
Gavin looks around the room at his companions and other leaders that are assembled. So, where are you sending us?
There's a mixed reaction. Tavian Growl sort of looks bemused. It's almost like he's been waiting for you to catch on.
Yeah, enough of the foreplay, just stick it in.
Hersian laughs, like, loudly and broadly, his belly wobbling as he chuckles to himself. Ian leans forward and says, you will all be moving ahead of our main group, main contingent of forces. We'll be scouting the terrain, maybe a mile or so ahead, and if there is an ambush, you're to alert us to it. be it via subtlety or, well, via blood.
If the eyes of the eagle are not good enough to scout out what you seek, then I will offer my aid as best I can. I will also attempt to return nature to its former glory in these lands.
I'm sure the screams of our enemies, these fiends that we will find and we will destroy, will most certainly alert you to the ambush tavern. Now, might I suggest we get going? Unless you have other information that you'd like to tell us, or shall we just skirt around this issue for a further few hours and let the whole war go to shit?
I don't like an elf, but I like what she's saying.
There's a moment of sort of like all the commanders look a little
like, yeah, fair.
Yeah, fair enough. And Hercian stands a little awkwardly and sort of limps towards you, all standing at the end of the table, and says, if you do survive this, if you do make it back, then there'll be rewards. There'll be something for you. I promise. On my honor.
I'd like to, I'd probably take Hercian's forearm and give it like a firm grip, because I have a lot of respect for a man that stays in the war even after he's been so injured. So Kasna appreciates this man.
He looks a little shocked, but he takes it uneasily and gives you the best smile he can muster and just says, "You all march for different reasons, but in this battle to come, this is where we will find our true brothers and sisters. Out there, we will forge a future for our families." And he stares off into the distance at something that only he can see. He's a man incredibly driven, entirely convinced that this is the day, essentially.
I kind of look to where he's looking and is a bit confused, okay, sure.
I say in Dark Elven to my sister, "Careful, dear sister, you're going soft. Remember who your true family is." And I turn on my heel and walk out the tent.
I kind of look back at her and just kind of shake my head.
I'm going to turn to Gavin and say,
Gregor Tuscan, nice to meet you. We might know each other already, but by reputation, but I don't know if we've ever formally made the acquaintance.
Not formally, but it is always a pleasure to know who will be standing at our side when the sacrifice that is necessary is made.
You are mighty tall, friend. Mighty tall indeed.
It comes with the territory. I have heard of your band and what you are. We have more in common than you might think, my friend.
Oh, really? Well, perhaps we can talk more about that over a pint of ale around a campfire.
I would be happy to join you, and maybe I'll cook something up for us as well. And he sort of wraps his big cast iron skillet that is always hanging on Gavin's back.
ooh.
Look, we're getting along already. This is going to be a fun trip.
Yes, it is. What is your timetable for this action, Hercian? Certainly, he looks to the drow, and knowing his own forces, sunrise is not all of our best time. But if time is of the essence, we will make do with what time we have.
I usually have brunch at 11.
Second breakfast.
Yeah, second breakfast. Indeed. Was it? I believe Gavin is famously known for 18 egg omelets.
Yes,
which is quite a thing. Squall, you got to cook that for me at some point. He nods and he looks out, and sort of through the flaps you can see the first sort of rays of light starting to breach over the horizon far in the distance, and he says, you're not wrong. It's something we've factored in. See, at the moment, a lot of the ground we have to march through is darkened, and unfortunately, well, it's going to stay that way for only a short amount of time for your lot. So, while we gain ground and while the fiends retreat into the darkness they so desire, you guys are going to have to stay hot on their heels if you don't want to be suffering as they do. There is one small boon, something that might help. And he points, and far in the distance, you will be able to make out something that is now being silhouetted by sort of like the first early morning light. There is the fortress of Hex far, far away, and you will be able to see that it looks like the sun will rise directly behind it. And he says, they'll always have a shadow to hide in till the midday sun finally rises, crests the top of, and then they'll have nowhere to hide but inside. As they march out in the shadow they so beloved will push them back along with the daybreak. And hopefully that'll cement our victory.
Well, it seems as though we have a shadow to catch.
He chuckles and claps you on the shoulder, and he's nowhere near as muscular as you, but he's quite clearly a man who can appreciate, he also is known to lift. Says, yeah, you just do the fist bump, and exchange gym details,
Yes.
And he says,
omelet recipes.
Yeah, exactly. He looks to you and says, Gavin, I hope out there your forces, they keep in line. We've allowed it so far, but I would be careful. The amount of blood that is about to be spilled. And he shudders and says, it's one of the only times I'm thankful I can't march with the men.
They are fully aware of the consequences to crossing that line, but the temptation is always with them. If nothing else, we will be deep enough behind enemy lines that if the bloodlust takes them, it will at least be the enemy that they'll be tearing through.
He gives you a small smile and says, you've a remarkable way of finding a silver lining in something I can only describe as incredibly bleak.
You always have to depend that it's there, even when you can't see it.
He nods, and he seems to take that to heart, as he will turn, and he actually looks to the quietest member of the group, Aureus, and says, you're the only one who would be able to make it back in time. If your friends begin to fall, if you are truly ambushed, and we have broken line of sight, you may be the only chance to inform us of what is to come. I know it's hard to ask, and I know you have your beliefs, but if it comes to it, you must leave them. You must warn our greater forces. If we stumble into a fight we have immediately lost the upper hand, we could lose the entire war. You understand that, right?
I understand. You need not worry about my duties.
Trust an elf to run away. Come on, you little tree licker. Let's go.
Aureus looks at the small dwarf and winces at him and just says nothing.
Off I go. Nice to meet you again, Hosian.
I look at Hercian and say, if I still stand, I will be able to get a message to you through sending, so you will know.
He nods and just says, make sure you do. But from back here, I might not be able to raise the alarm. There is one, Clayton, and he will jog your memory of an individual who travels. His name is Clayton Half-Iron, and he will be leading one of the central forces. He's a wood elf. He is particularly racist towards anyone that isn't a wood elf. He's not the most likable of individuals, but he's a solid ranger, and he'll probably be right at the front of their forces. He says, Clayton will be leading the secondary scouting expedition just in front of our forces. Send to him if need be.
It's like, translating that to modern day is like, he's a big racist, but great at accounting. So
yeah, he's wonderful. Yeah.
Understood.
Aureus 3. Sorry, go ahead.
Understood. That is who I will contact.
Aureus regards the three and says, if you're able to provide me with birds of travel, I can send updates quite frequently.
By birds of travel, says Tarian, you mean mounts or do you mean messenger ravens?
Just messenger ravens. I can commune with them and I can send them with messages, albeit small.
He smiles and says, "Oh, we have plenty." And he will sort of head. He will stand up and
opens
he will,
his cloak and
yeah,
birds fly out.
Ravens everywhere. Doves. He is actually his name
magician.
is actually Tequila. He's actually Tequila, and he will lead you out. And there is a large set of wagons that carry a ton of birds, just thousands and thousands of the various different messenger birds that are probably going to be used to notify, have up until this point been used to notify people of deaths in the family and the such. And he will walk you over and he chuckles quite darkly to himself and says, it's been a long time since we've actually needed to use any of these. And takes a few of them out and will hand them to you. These beasts immediately sort of warm to you, feeling sort of like Tavian's quite cold, and being someone who is of nature out here, they kind of cling to you as if you are the last vestige of nature in this land, which you in a lot of ways could be.
I take kindly to the birds and I begin to commune with beast.
Commune with beast.
Or I believe that's what the spell is called.
I believe so.
Speak with beast, something like that. I can't remember. I'm talking to the birds and I'm letting them know.
Speak of animals. There's a bunch of
there's also messenger animal, I believe. Animal messenger.
Yeah, the spells are
so many options.
Yeah,
I let them know to.
Are you doing this inside of the tent or out?
They've stepped outside there, so you will be able to see them. They've not actually moved far because they're held quite close to the command tent, being sort of like the people who are in charge of sending ravens out.
Yeah, I speak with the animals, and I let the ravens know that they are to remain close, and I will keep them well fed.
They sort of squawk back coherently to you, sort of like fear, in mixed messages, very blunt, very literal, having no sense of sort of like future or past. Everything is very present, and in their present, there are no trees. There is very little wind. It's not a particularly nice place to be. They are quite distressed, and it takes quite a little bit of time to calm them.
As he's attempting to calm them, I'd like to walk up to the birds. Are they molting at all, or are they ruffled?
Oh yeah, they've not been. They've been
No
agitated,
reason.
and you can imagine. Yeah, that's
I'm
very,
probably
very...
not going to help with their agitation, but if there isn't a feather on the ground from them, I'm going to pluck one off of the birds and walk away without saying anything.
The cages are littered with feathers. They have been completely distraught the entire... Ever since they crossed the mountains, they have been unsettled. So yeah, there will be feathers galore. But if you want to go for a bird,
I want to take one from the bird anyways, just because the druid is kind of a symbiont of life, and I am of undeath. And
yeah,
it's just my first little, like, fuck you in your life.
Yeah,
and then I just kind of look at the birds and do a little mock bow, and then walk away inspecting the feather, and I put it into one of my pouches.
It caws out, but Aureus, it doesn't caw out to you. It just screams something akin to bitch, very loudly and very harshly. it particularly agitated, and this particular bird has sort of found a way to nestle in your collar and is right next to your neck, cowering from the cruel, wicked individual.
Kazna will hear this from the inside and just be like, "Oh God, she'll just step out." She knows what's happened.
Someone's agitating something living. It's
there we go. It's Zoom.
Aureus regards this. What is your name, Darkskin?
I look at him for a moment. Zune, what is yours?
Aureus Ferox, named after the Fae which raised me.
What's your race again? Sorry.
I'm a wood elf.
Wood elf? Oh, great.
Oh.
We're all friends here.
I spin the feather in my hand as I'm looking at him.
When battle thickens, you will be the least in my regard. Expect no help from nature.
Oh, damn.
I never have, nor have I needed the help of a fairy-skinned surface elf.
10 gold on the dark-skinned one.
I said to Gavin.
Though, this will come in quite useful. I know no allegiance, living nor dead, but myself. Pick your friendships and battles as you may. Sister, where are you?
Here, Zune. As always, right beside you.
Are you ready?
Always.
Shall we?
Yes.
As Gregor sort of like places his bet, Hercule's just like, I'll take that wager. He transformed into a giant eagle, and there's a cliff face right there. I don't like her odds.
Can I hear that interaction?
Elves have a particular way of hearing.
Say.
Roll me a perception check.
Okay.
He's not being particularly quiet. It's not going to be particularly difficult.
Can I roll as well?
Yeah, absolutely.
Happy.
Dear, he's.
I look over him and I make a motion with the feather. I can fly. And then I continue walking.
I don't hear. I'm fine.
What's going on?
He looks confused. Yeah.
Gavin sighs.
Say to my sister in Dark Elven, why is it always the surface elves that feel the need to show the biggest cocks?
Aureus decides to ignore Zune and turns to the dwarf, and I have not been properly introduced. I am Aureus Ferox of the Southern Wilds, south of the Elven Kingdoms. Who may you be?
Is that me? Sorry, did I miss my line?
Yeah.
My name is Gregor Tuscan. Nice to meet you.
And then I regard the tall. I look past the dwarf and I look at the tall human. I have seen many beasts in the wild, but I've never seen one as mighty as you. You would fit in well with the forest bears.
Greetings to you, my friend.
I think that's an insult.
I've heard worse. I have witnessed your prowess and skills upon the battlefield. You have many times brought hope when there was none. I thank you for that.
Yes, balance must be restored here. Life must be returned to these lands.
You got a tough fucking job, mate, don't you?
My deity Sylvanus wills me to. He saved my life as a child, and I must stay true.
Hey, well, we all gotta stick true to something, I guess. Good to see that Honor didn't die in the Black Mountains.
Or is that Black Mountains? I've never heard of such a place.
It is where I hail from, lad. And most of me kin. Well, you know, back when there was lots of us.
I've encountered very few in my lands, of your kind in my lands. But the ones I have met have been quite pleasant.
Aye, well, we've retaken the Black Mountains now, so all's well and good. Most of us are wee buggers like, but we got a bit of fight in us.
It seems that we'll be needed against the fiends.
Hey, well, slaughtered more than I care to remember, so be an honour to kill more at your side. And those two elves who are quite antagonistic towards you, I noticed. Or maybe it was you being antagonistic to them.
She attempted to harm a bird, a creature of nature.
It's just a fucking bird, mate. What's the big deal?
There must be balance within nature. We must live amongst them. This one seems not to understand that. In fact, I could feel a radiating presence off of her, which makes me ill.
Oh, maybe you just fancy her. Have you thought about that?
No.
See,
the dark skin does not bode well and does not rouse my loins.
oh, come on now. I remember my first wife. I hated the guts off of her, but when we were rolling in the hay, it was a different story. You know what I mean?
I'd like to think that we can still hear this conversation.
I think
don't
so.
Think it's just being subtle at all. These are
Oh,
two of
I'm
the
not a-
least
yeah.
subtle characters.
I'm not a subtle man.
I'm just going to turn around like, you know, sure. Yeah, sure.
I look at my sister like I'd rather become one of my own undead constructs.
Love is a strange thing for sure, but I hear you speak of balance. Never forget that death is a part of the balance as well, just as much as life is. Certainly what we see here is beyond any sort of balance, but it does not mean that there is only to be life found now. Death is a part of the circle as well, as I'm sure, Sir Druid, you know.
Yes, but the magics in these lands, they prevent growth.
For sure.
Sure thing, bro.
For sure. Yo.
Totally, dude.
Surely, bro. All right, then, let's,
Fist.
why don't we all get to know each other a little bit? Tell you what, Elfie
Why don't we
lassies,
start walking while we do so?
Yeah,
we
why
have a
not?
shadow. We have a shadow to catch.
shadows and all that. Let's chat along the way. Elfie lassies, let's,
I go and get my my like keg, which I keep, and I carry it with me on my back, strap it in, and I'll kind of get drinks for people along the way.
I'm just going to kind of smile at Tavian as we leave and just be like, I do hope we meet again.
Tavian smiles and says, well, if you do find yourself gracing our kingdom anytime soon, then I'm sure we shall. You would know that that is something you would probably be put to death upon entering their kingdom. They don't tolerate drow in any capacity at all.
Looking forward to it.
He smiles, gives you an equally flamboyant bow to the one Zoom gave as she came in, and you guys sort of depart. And as you reach the edge of the
Pedro,
cliff,
my man, thank you.
we are going to
Gentleman and
sort of
scholar.
skip over you guys making your way there because it's basically an elevator journey down and then a long march.
Is there elevator music? I need to know.
Yeah. There is always elevator music. What kind of elevator music? What kind of elevator music?
Oh, so I can't take Morty with me then.
You can bring Morty. This elevator has transported
Okay.
up to like sort
Yeah.
of 10,000 men at a time.
Okay.
It is monstrous, and there are 3 of them. So yeah, Morty is absolutely welcome. There are, you will see down there the few druids they brought. They managed to sort of like bring into such a desolate land, have everything from direwolves, giant elk. You will even see that there's no plant sort of creatures. There's no treants or anything like that. They have refused to come this far. But there's certainly some pretty large and savage beasts amongst the assembled masses. One horse, definitely welcome.
My animal handling is terrible.
Oh man, a whole year. to
Wonderful.
We're on this lift. What is Aureus looks to? What is the lift made of? He's expecting a lift.
It is solid metal of some sort. It's dwarven. You would imagine it's steel. It glimmers with slight gold and hue to it. It's inscribed with runes. The one who would understand the runes would probably be you, Will. So
Gregor's my name.
Gregor would be able to see that these runes seem to be runes of load bearing. They have reinforced it with dwarven magic. Most dwarven magic sort of being centered around constructing things, building, making great artifacts and weapons and that sort of stuff. Whatever these things are, they have had to be reinforced simply so they were light enough to carry and sturdy enough to hold the forces as they descend.
Hey, this is welcome, McKin.
I'm fascinated by this. I've never seen such magics. I've never seen the working of metal before. This is
Hey, well, maybe I'll
in
take
such
you.
capacity.
Maybe one day I'll take you to the Black Mountains and I'll show you what stuff we got going on there, boy. That'll blow your frickin' birdie wings off you.
Perhaps this venture from the south to the north to aid the cause of the Alliance has really opened my mind to the outer worlds. I may take you up on that someday.
Hey. Join the army, see the world, all that.
What could go wrong? So yeah,
I assume our forces are coming down with us, or
No,
it's just us.
your personal forces will come with you, but everyone else has already descended, and they are
Right.
still getting, like, it's going to be quite a while to get them all in some sort of formation. Even though it's all been sort of drilled, they've all been told time and time again, they've all got their own.
It's 100,000 people.
Yeah, 100,000 people. And then there are beasts, there are creatures of burden, and there are things that defy sort of everything. You will see that centered in the in the center towards the front of the army is a group that are pinpricks from your distance. They're quite far north. You're coming down sort of like the southern flank. They're in the center, and you will be able to make out that these guys have a huge sort of space carved out around them. There's 5 of them. This would definitely look like the people, the heroes that you guys would have heard about. Some of you will have met the Pentacle 5. Give me a history check, everyone. Let's see what it is you picked up about these guys along the way. Because they may no way
Oh, damn.
quiet.
Oh, damn.
Well,
I know
then.
everything there is to
Oh,
know.
no.
Damn. And Zoom doesn't give a damn.
I don't care.
I don't know a thing.
Hey. Anyone? Trying to
Okay, yeah, not bad.
I'm sorry,
Okay,
Aureus doesn't give a thing.
Zune, they are who knows? You've never really heard the name, or you've heard the name, but you've never really stayed around to hear the stories. They are supposedly important people. They're probably political. They're probably something very long, drawn out, and boring. Not much interest. Who do we have? Okay. Wait. No. Never mind. That's Arrow. Arrow, you have absolutely never heard of these people. Yeah, they could be anyone. They're just 5 individuals standing out in the sticks. Actually, yeah, Zune, you will have heard a couple of tales from them. They supposedly lead portions of the army. They are definitely.
Is this the Pentacle 5? Or?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
so
you would assume,
I
like,
will-
seeing 5 individuals alone amongst a sea of fighting people. But yeah, that's what little you probably know about them. On a 15, you've heard really mixed things about them. You've heard great tales of, everyone's heard tales, like probably drinking with the paladins and the clerics, especially in Breckendale, where there's a strong mentality of you go, you fight, you win, you go and get shit-faced drunk afterwards and have a laugh. And, there's that mentality of everyone goes back to the tavern afterwards, has a nice cold pint of ale and talks war stories and big talk. And that's how they keep morale up a lot of the time. And these people have come up a bunch of times. Their exploits are legendary, but it appears that not everything with them is always as smooth as foretold. And there are a couple of people you bumped into along the ways who makes it out as if they are quite cold individuals, actually. They're not necessarily that attached to, they're not that grounded. They are very much aware that they are famous. Gregor, you've heard a little bit more than just, they're not particularly grounded. They're quite arrogant.
Okay.
They know they are powerful.
Sure.
And they are powerful. There's no disputing that. But they have heard some pretty terrible things. Some of your convict buddies probably have heard. One of them was stationed in an area and was later imprisoned in said area after, causing a little bit of trouble, skimming a little, letting smuggling happen, and sort of like he was probably redirecting food, supplies, that sort of thing out of the army's pocket and into people who would pay 4 times, 5 times what you'd usually expect because of shortages. And he claims that the Penable Five showed up and one of their members struck dead a guard for getting in their way. Not for impeding an investigation or anything, literally killed a man because he impeded their path. They are not to be fucked around with.
Copy that.
Louise, I am actually going to I'm gonna message you a thing.
Yes.
I'm gonna give
yes,
you
my first
secret.
secret. I'm so excited.
I love this campaign so much already. It's so properly done. The secrets and the messages.
There's secrets. I have a secret. I will have a secret.
You'll tell your dear sister, right?
I'll tell everybody immediately. I'll be like, hey guys.
There's some secrets going right.
To say we need to get you into season 2 of Imperator. You have secrets.
Oh god! All the betrayal. All the betrayal.
Yeah. We'd all kill each other in the first 2 seconds.
That was fun to do.
Hey, I tried, okay, but some of you fled as I tried to murder you all violently. You guys have started exactly. What the hell? So you guys will reach the bottom end of the elevator and dismount and be making your way to the front of the forces here. And as you do, it's really onto you guys to how you strike out into this barren wasteland. In the distance, you can make out that the land is occasionally broken up by razor-sharp rocks that rise up. It almost looks like, think of the ground as like a crust, quite heavy, quite thick, of ash and broken up rock. It definitely has a salt flat feel. But if you were to, for example, imagine something huge from the sky crashed into this land, it would leave these huge jagged craters with razor sharp rocks pointing out in every direction. Some of it's going to be a little bit difficult to traverse. So what's the sort of, how do you guys set out? You can bring all of your guys with you. You can leave anyone behind who you want to, but it's up to you how you sort of establish the marching order.
Are Victor and the vampires with me, or are they making? Have I been able to communicate to them the plan?
You get the feeling, Victor or Vincent.
I'm sorry, Vincent.
Vincent. Vincent is know your characters, goddamn. Vincent.
Sorry,
it's cool.
He was Victor, and then I thought it was too close to Frankenstein.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Vincent isn't necessarily around. With the vampires, you always feel them close. It's almost as if you are wearing them as a cloak. They watch over you. They're always around. You never feel parted from them. You get the feeling that they'll make themselves known once you're away from these forces. Most certainly.
Right.
So far as the others in your group, Nora Rivers, who is a converted paladin of Pelor, someone who used to be actually a vengeance paladin, steps forward and she smiles to you, looking out, gazing upon this barren land, and he says, "You almost wish for the old days." I certainly do. It's going to be, difficult holding back against such reckless hate.
But we will. That's our purpose now. You yourself said you grew tired of it. And I know that this harkens back to a life that you took great zeal and joy.
She smiles, but she looks weary and she looks angry. And she says, "Sometimes there's a time for vengeance, Gavin."
Yes, there is. And certainly, this is a time for judgment. But
she She smiles coyly, having had this argument quite a few times
Yes.
with you in the past.
But judgment is always tempered with justice. Vengeance is its own path, and you know the destruction that it can lead to. Come, we must make haste. And he sort of looks at her, knowing that the others in our party need us to get to our destination quickly so that they can be of the most help. And he sort of takes a nod at Anduin and to gather the rest of the paladins and clerics to pretty much all but make a beeline, certainly not wanting to cross the Pentable Five, but wanting to, I assume this fortress casts a very wide shadow, but to, I'll say, I'm going to head towards, it truly right dead behind, or would there be a better choice? It's going to get me a longer shadow.
I think no, it's pretty much, it's sort of straightforward, but you're probably going to have to move towards the center of the army to sort of get the full, the mountain that is sort of this fortress is built into is jagged, so the shadow, the edge of the shadow is going to be uneven as hell. But.
Right. So I'm going to call left flank, that he's going to see there seems to be deeper shadow to the left flank, and that it's going to give them more time to get into position. And I mean, when I say left flank, I understand it's still dead center, but just to the left of the Pentable Five.
Yeah. So you lead forward in sort of that direction, sort of maximizing the amount of ground that you and the drow and some of your kin will be able to cover and operate in to the fullest potential. Who is leading? Gavin sort of like picked out the best place for him, and certainly seems keen to strike out from this position. But who else is?
I'm
is
not
anyone
much
else?
of a scout, more of a.
I'd be willing to bet dollars to donuts. My sister's in the front. Get out of my way! I want to stab somebody.
She's like pushing me out of the way. She's like, "Fuck you! I need to stab somebody right now."
I am in the back with Morty, keeping an eye on my sister and the rest.
Oh, and along the way, I'm going to keep an eye out for Clayton and his group.
You will see, like, as you break the front of the line, you guys have not had to really push past many people. It starts off like you get to the back, and Kazna starts pushing people aside, and pretty quickly word travels forward, or shouts travel forward of people sort of like sounding surprised as they are pushed away by a particularly scarily strong drow who sort of muscles her way forth. And pretty soon you have a parting of the sea of men. A lot of them sort of like have to press uncomfortably close to their brethren. You hear like people stumbling. It causes quite a commotion. It probably staggers the line ever so slight, but nobody seems to want to get too close to some of these unspoken forces. And
do I have my people with me? Any of my desperate lads?
Yes, yes.
Perfect.
Unless you want to leave any of your
no. We are all going in together.
I was going to say, is she driving them like a herd, or is she at the? Actually, yeah, I guess you're in the front though, still probably.
Yeah, I think she's sort of leading them forth, and then behind them, sort of herding them, is Zune astride a warhorse. What does your warhorse look like? Is it clad in armor? Is it particularly...
It is clad in, like, mismatched pieces of armor, because I don't really know much about caring for animals. I think I just paid somebody that needed gold and got it. I treat it more like a pack horse than a war horse a lot of the times. I've been practicing casting spells atop it, but I'm still not quite near mastery with that. Obviously pitch black, because... we look cool together.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So this sort of dreadful visage of Zune astride a horse that sort of snorts, and the air is starting to sort of get thick and humid. There are so many bodies down here, and they look like they're sweating, not only because of the damn heat, but also because you guys put the fear in these people, and certainly the desperate souls that sort of move around you. In the center of them are the few shambling figures who move with eerie precision, but at the same time disjointed movements. Luckily, they seem to pass unnoticed by all but the most savvy of people who are really gazing into your ranks. But most of them have hurt their eyes. And following them, I presume, would be who's up next? Who passes next in
we
this
also
parade?
we also just hit 20 retweets, Josh. So if you want to do a VD, my friend.
Okay, right.
I'll follow up. Yeah, I'll follow up after.
Indeed. So just as we do, I want to know there is something out there, something that is pretty terrible. Cool.
The secret messages I know that are going around right now. Okay. So, viewer decision, Josh. There's something out there.
Yeah. There's something out amongst the alliance. There's something out there that is particularly hidden. It's sort of our secret weapon. The good guys' secret weapon. It's something that they've had to hide because it is not necessarily the most widely accepted. It's something to be feared that is about to be unleashed in this coming huge epic battle. Now, to give you figures, this is all or nothing. This is not the first of many skirmishes. This is the end of a war, and it is going to be make or break for the future of the entire kingdoms, the entire continent even. What is it that the Alliance is about to unleash on the fiends? And what is it? I need to know. I need to know now, so I can throw it in there and cause some true mayhem. But yeah, just behind them, like there's like a different array of individuals. Your men march with a little bit more coherence. Less shambling, less aggressive and violent and almost chittering, gibbering lunatics that seem to be swarming around the drow. But you find yourself picking up a few bits along the way, and there are definitely, you're going to have to possibly break up a few fights along the way, as your men are straight up just stealing halberds and bits and pieces and like anything that isn't firmly grasped. And you notice that as much as you may try, you are not going to stop all of them, and there will be a couple of fights that will break up.
Yeah, so you'd think that maybe Gregor will be fine of them like getting better equipment, because these are basically like the Russian infantry currently, because they don't have weapons, a lot of them, so I just literally send in bodies to fight. But if any of them breaks the law, which is like stealing from like a superior officer or something, there will be like field not executions, but I will like take off hands and stuff like that. And it's like, but sir, now I can't fight. It's like, well, you shouldn't have stolen the sword, and it just like comes right off.
A couple of them, one of them will straight up lose his life. Like he collapses, he goes straight into shock, and you watch as sort of like as the crowd sort of shifts, he just is trampled by the masses as your party sort of moves snakingly through towards the front line. He just vanishes under a horde of people who are sort of like they're being pushed back from the other side. And he lets out one feral squeal, and that's it. There's silence.
Yeah, there's probably a kind of a glance around the rest of my group as I kind of bring them into order, and I say,
there is no place for breaking the law around here. Now we're all gonna march, and lots of you are gonna die, but I don't give a shite, because you're worth nothing to me. So, fuck around if you want, steal something, I don't care, march out of line. It's all the same to me, lads. You know that, don't you? But you know what's awaiting you? An eternity of misery in hell. So you can face this misery here with me now, which is a little bit shite. Sure, the food ain't great, but at least the drinks are not half bad. Or down there with the devil. Now you choose. Up to you.
And then I start walking.
There's like a couple of them, the older sort of people who, if they did steal, they were bloody quick about it, and they've not stolen anything you could easily find. They're smart. But there's a couple of people who you will just catch like maybe the halberd that is now sort of laying against, sort of propped up against some the main force's shields, looks like it's been discarded rapidly with quite some haste, as you can't really pinpoint who amongst them, but it seems to have put the fear in these people. And you get the feeling that, as long as you keep the fear at the back greater than the fear of what's in front of them, you'll continue to make these guys march into it.
That's how this thing works. And I've got my little kind of bone dagger that I know if ever I kind of bring it out, it's end time.
It's
for
the
one of
end,
them.
yeah. It's all over. Finally, sort of bringing up the rear, we have a very quiet individual, and sort of like, it would always be near the front or the back, because Gavin's forces are sort of like milling near the back, marching forward with uniformity. These guys know how to fight. They're trained. Where does Aureus sort of fit himself into this conga line of confusion and mayhem?
So the ravens I instructed earlier, they're still with me, correct? They're
absolutely. They cling to you for dear life, my friend.
And was I able to see this man get trampled? What was I able to discern from?
I'm going to say I'm going to say you probably heard like the definite sound, but getting to him would be difficult. At the least.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. Aureus doesn't enjoy the sight of needless death, but nonetheless, he sees all of his new companions and they're marching their soldiers. So, so presumably to go scout out and see what the enemy's doing. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to morph myself into, wild shape myself into a giant eagle. But before doing that, I'm actually going to cast invisibility on myself. So I'm going to just disappear, and you see like a ruffle of feathers, and the ravens off me fly off, and I fly off into the air to get a better view, and I look around. And what does my character see?
Give me a perception check. I believe at advantage with being sort of you get the heightened senses of an eagle, whose sight is legendary. So yeah, give me a perception check, and we'll see what you can make out about the terrain ahead.
Sure. 1 second, a little bit. Okay, there we go. Perception. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, damn, 27. You launch yourself into the sky, sort of like flying high above, and there are cheers as sort of like feathers fall. Are you invisible as you do this?
I do it. Yeah. I do this. Yeah, I have to cast. I can't cast. Myself, but the ravens follow me, presumably. So the ravens. Yeah.
I'm going to say one or two, if this is okay with you, 1 or 2 giant eagle feathers do come out as you take flight with some force. Like you will probably knock down a few people on either side just from the downdraft of your huge wings. But 1 or 2 people go down, and around you, a few feathers catch loose. And amongst the elves that serve in this army, seeing huge eagle feathers falling from the sky with seemingly no sort of bearing on where they've come from, they've just seemingly materialized. This is the sort of thing that would definitely be seen as an omen, and it begins like a chant in Elvish of victory and hope, as this could be the coming of a great battle. And this is quite clearly a sign that they intend to win, that the gods are on their side. But you look out, and on a 27 perception, which is massively good, you see far in the distance there are these razor-sharp rocky bluffs that have been mentioned before. And you can see that there is a line that seems to form. It's just set back behind them, and it looks like a huge crack in the ground. On a 27, being someone who is known a man of nature, it does not look natural. And it is long, very, very long.
So in the formation of the rocks, I see there's a crack, and it's...
It stretches from the north to the south almost as far as you can see. It's wider than the forward side of your army.
Okay, so the crack is vertical in the formation. It's not horizontal. Okay.
And
so it's... so
it's parallel to your frontward forces. So
okay, yeah.
There's no way
it's running east to it's running east to west.
You are marching east, so it's going to be running north to south.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you said we came in on the south.
No, you
Never
are
mind.
on this. Yeah. Sorry. So this is something that looks to translate this on a 27. I'm going to give it to you because that's monstrously good. In modern terms, it looks like it could be a trench. It's not particularly wide. It's not particularly deep, but it's definitely there, and it's hiding just behind these rocky bluffs that would provide a lot of cover. There's no way you'd be able to see it from the ground.
Sorry, you did say a trench.
Yes.
Okay.
This is only known to my character as of now,
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yes, you are the only person aware of this so far.
I would also like to command one of those elves to bring me one of the eagle feathers.
Roll me a persuasion or an intimidation, whichever you prefer.
Let's go with intimidation.
Yeah, one of them, as they sort of landed around you, one of them will just sort of toss it to you. He's more, he's holding it quite honestly, and he seems to hand it to you, not really paying attention to your standing, the fact that you're a dark elf or anything like that. He just sort of offers you the tip of the feather. This feather is probably about the size of the flank of your horse. Giant eagles are massive.
I only need a piece of it. I will take a dagger and cut off the kind of tail end of the feather and then throw it back on the ground and put it in one of my pouches.
This elf will lunge out and grab it, and sort of like he'll get knocked into by a paladin who's just not prepared for him to step out into their path. And as he's standing there holding it, he looks up to you just with sheer disbelief that you would sort of do something to such a welcome omen of victory, that you would sort of desecrate it in a way. But quickly his face is swallowed amongst the crowd.
I would have looked down from Morty for a while, staring at him like, the beliefs of the common people are so stupid. And then I would have,
Morty understands.
Morty snorts completely unfazed. But yeah, so finally we have Gavin's forces. As you break the line, Gavin, you have 12 men. The other 6 remaining hidden for now. They look out at sort of like what is ahead. They would have seen just in front of you. You will have also have seen that Aureus vanished, and suddenly feathers fell, and there was a huge downdraft, and like all of your men sort of like braced, wearing heavy armor. Mm-hmm. A lot of them with large weapons that could. They're not easily displaced, and you are a man who is built to just not give it. Like, Gavin don't move if Gavin don't want to move. But yeah, seeing that and looking up, you hear the beating of wings above you. Aureus has apparently decided to vanish. This is not uncommon.
Right. I watched the ravens.
The ravens are going to follow Aureus.
Yes.
Sort of being aware of where he is.
Because I would have paid attention to the ravens regardless because of the Raven Queen. So
indeed. So the ravens are going to follow Aureus. Aureus, as sort of your group pushes out, I presume, Kazna, you are going to head out there and start marching towards trouble.
Sure am.
Get some blood on your blade.
If there ain't no trouble, I'm going to cause some trouble. That's how I'm going.
So from our front line to the jagged rocks, that's all I see at this point. How far are we talking? 1,000 yards, or is it like...
you're probably looking about 4 miles.
So it's a long way off.
Yeah,
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, the first long march.
The first long march, indeed. You will be able to make out that there does appear to be a slight forward force, maybe 1,000 or so men. You would imagine that would be Clayton's forces. They're quite some distance away, but you can see a single figure standing there. He carries, he's got a bow sort of resting against him, and he's calling out. You can't make out the words, but you can hear him calling, and he's pointing out into the distance.
I'll, depending on where, I see Kazna and Zune and Gregor sort of herding their troops, or with their troops sort of following behind them. But I'll make my way straight for Clayton, just in order to communicate with him what we had heard from Hercian about him being the point contact for how our mission goes, and see whether he's been briefed on what we are about to do.
Question. As you were at the back, Kasna and Zune, do you look back as you break line, or do you assume that people are there and march forward with your forces?
I'd probably check that my men are there, and probably Gregor's men, but I wouldn't really care about.
Cool.
much else.
They are there. Gregor, same question. Would you sort of know that Aureus has vanished? You would have felt that. Do you pay attention to the fact that Gavin's breaking off?
Sorry, I'm completely not used to the name Gregor yet.
It's cool.
So I'm not associating it with me. If Gavin breaks a line, I'll
Hey, up, laddie. Everything okay?
Checking in with Clayton, as we were instructed that he should be our point of contact. Continue forward. We will rejoin with you there to the left flank.
Oh, hey, if,
You are fairly easy to follow.
hey, these band of ragamuffins. If you need anything, just scream out a cry of agony or something, you know.
If we run into trouble, you will certainly know.
I give him a little salute.
To give you a feel for how your men move forward, Gregor, they come forth almost chanting like football hooligans or soccer hooligans for our American friends, as they sort of like chanting. They all bearing weapons, and none of them seem particularly fazed by what is to come. They've all, to this point, given up on trying to get around it. They'll either live or they'll die.
Nice. I'm figuring a hitch for the raid. Welcome in, everybody. Good to see you guys.
Hello.
Welcome in. We're playing the Long March here, and we're about to start a very long march indeed.
Banana raid.
We're marching, and it's long.
Indeed. So
two totally different things, but
Aureus, I'm going to say, like, you rejoin people just as they break away. Who do you bring the information to? Gavin or?
You want me to rejoin the group? Is what you're saying?
It's no. It's up to you. Like, would you bring this information?
With what I saw with, I'm actually going to. I can see that's like 4 miles away, correct?
Yeah.
And I'm able to look down and I see that. So basically, people are starting to break the line and starting to move out.
Yeah.
Actually,
the army is starting to move as well.
Right. I'm actually going to just continue to fly to see if I can see. I'm just going to fly straight at the crack. I'm going to see if I can see more. Right.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. I'm going to see what more I can gather of that the closer I get.
So as you get closer, roll me a survival check real quick.
that is also another viewer decision, Josh, as we have just hit 2 subscribers.
Damn,
girl.
Right. Could you just post the straw poll for the last one so I can grab it in?
Yeah, actually, we had 2 that were tied. Actually, it looks like it's broken there now. So
put it in the Zoom chat.
Cool. Thank you. And yeah. Okay. For the second, I'm gonna post you the exact same question, but for the fiends. So there is a huge battle about to come forth. We already have found out what the secret weapon, this horrible ancient force of nature and wrath that is coming forth with the Alliance, which is the side that the party is on. They are marching upon the fortress of Hex. This is the end of a very long war and the final battle. Think of it, the climactic, the opening of the Fellowship of the Ring, the huge epic climactic battle between Sauron and the forces of good. What is the thing that no one is expecting? What is the Fiend's secret weapon? What do they bring to bear against the Alliance that is going to stack things in their favor? We've already got something pretty magnificent for the Alliance.
Yeah.
It's a nice cold beer.
It's a cold beer, indeed.
Cracking
We're
open
going to
a
crack
cold
open
one.
a cold one for Fiends.
Indeed.
Yeah, fucking cheers, mate. Tosco, you muted me.
yeah, I'm going to totally cover up our chat. I don't want to see what it might be. Going to do the surprise.
I like it.
Oh,
I
yeah.
like it.
Good idea.
All right, and leave that line in the chat, guys. What is the Fiend's secret weapon? And put VD before it as well, as per usual, like so.
Indeed.
VD is the secret weapon.
Oh, yes.
It's just the viewers, that's it.
We need
Yes,
to
the
weaponize.
viewers, a horde of chat.
Fear the horde of chat. Always fear the horde
It's
of
just
chat.
it's just a wah.
You know what? There is I'm gonna take there is a tie, so I'm gonna we'll see what comes.
Yeah, you get to decide in the case of a tie.
In the turn. So you guys start making your way forward. Your survival check, Aureus.
I didn't roll it yet. You want me to roll it still?
Yeah, give me a 21. You can see that there is a slight shift. The ground around it seems to be moving. The trench itself seems to be widening. The earth is shifting. It's almost not quite tectonic plate, but it's definitely there, and it's doing it very quietly. You cannot make out much sound. Occasionally, you make out small bursts of light. It appears something moves the earth.
Has my character seen this before at any time? And this is not something he's ever seen. This is something that's really strange.
This might bear resemblance to something that he has used in the past. Aureus knows about moving earth, making walls of stone, that sort of thing. This doesn't look entirely different. You know that druids have the capacity to do stuff like this, as do certain other individuals.
It's not natural. Okay. I'm with this information. I'm going to. About how far away from this trench that seems to be moving now?
I'm going to say you've gained quite some altitude, but probably about a mile away. They move. Eagles of that size move fucking quick.
Yeah, I think it's like 90. I'm going to continue to try. I'm going to just keep on getting more information about it. I want to get as much as I can possibly gather. As I'm assuming the armies have not moved that far, so I'm going to just
no. Your main army is quite slow. Yes. So, guys strike out. Gavin, Clayton greets you quite gruffly. He doesn't look particularly happy to see you or your friends. And you would probably remember having heard of Clayton before being a scout. Clayton hates the Kingdom of Breckendale, and you guys have fought a lot of stuff with Breckendale in the past. He sort of regards you and just says, "Hi, what do you want?"
Just wanted to inform you of orders that we are following from Hercian. He has asked us to move forward to potentially lure out any ambush that may be coming. As far as our chances, they are slim at best, but word needs to get back. I was told that you would be the proper person to send message to, either by Raven or through magical means, depending on our circumstances.
He nods, spits on the floor close to your feet-ish, and just says, "All right, if you're going to send anything to me, make it fucking snappy, okay? No need standing around with shit in your mouth. Get it over and done with, because believe me, the less we talk, the more I'll be happy."
Understood. We are on our way, and thank you for sharing your water in such a dry and desolate place with me. And he just sort of gives him a smile, and an asshole smile, but very thankful asshole smile, and walks away.
Yeah. He doesn't look particularly happy, but goes back to addressing his friends, and that's where you sort of like start making your way back towards the main force of your scouting, your recon party.
Yeah, I was going to say, the rabble rousers, the Kaznas and Gregors, the football.
He did the football hooligans. So you guys are going to make your way pretty much. Not much going to happen. There's definitely nothing in your way. It is as reported. The scouts have said that the land ahead is desolate, is quiet, and it is just that. And as you sort of get a little closer, Aureus, you start to see that it's not just the trench that is widening. The razor sharp, rocky buffs that the people are going to have to sort of traverse in some way or break through, seem to be growing. They're growing on the other side, and they're essentially more shards seem to be like making their way from the ground, like rising up out of next to nothing itself, and making more and more spikes that are aimed directly at our party that is advancing upon it. It looks like it's being reinforced.
Okay, so this magic seems to be creating spikes then that are aimed towards us? Or...
Yeah, almost imagine like a halberd line of nature itself.
Okay.
This is all splayed towards the incoming forces.
Okay, I'm going to take this information. I'm going to start heading back towards the main force. I'm going to try looking for the big buff fellow.
Okay, you can easily make it.
Gavin,
I'm going to say you guys have made it about halfway, having done some decent recon, having a little bit of conversation, and Gavin, you and your friends hauling ass to catch up with a very determined Kasna who is sort of blazing a trail ahead. Blood rage boiling already, and you come back, and as you do, you will notice that as will most of the rest of the party notice, that Gavin is sort of slowly becoming surrounded by like a shroud, like black shadows pooling on the floor around him. You can actually see that it seems to be building, as if small coils of black smoke seem to be seeping out from his clothing, and the group that he travels with have started to give him slightly wide berth. Gavin, your final 6 companions are about to make themselves known. You feel that coldness build, the Raven Queen's will made manifest, and there's a long pause before Vincent speaks, ever so quietly, and says, "Well, it has been a long time since we have been to such a desolate place."
Yes, it is, in a way, almost familiar to Our Lady's domain, or how she presents it to others, at least.
Yes. Well, it will be nice to be back, spilling blood of the enemy.
I'm sure there's going to be much blood to spill. As you know, it will be fiendish blood.
He smiles broadly, and you guys will see this figure. He is tall. He's wearing a simple dark cloak. Underneath is armor that is flecked with red accenting and what looks like purple clothing underneath. He's very old, Vincent. Vincent is sort of like from a long line of tradition. When he was a full vampire, not a servant of the Raven Queen, part of her guard, when he was more enthralled to his baser instincts, he was very, very powerful, and he was regal. He considered himself almost a king. So he still carries himself in a certain way, but at the same time, you can see that his cloak is made of what looks like hundreds and hundreds of pure black feathers that hang low, and they sort of just about don't touch the floor. He floats. He is very graceful. It's unerring. Zune, you get the whiff of undead almost immediately. There's just something about it. There's a flavor in the air. You feel something familiar. I'm going to say, Kasna, you even pick up on a slight touch of it. Something. It's more probably that kinship with your sister being so close that you just pick up on how she reacts. Aureus, there's no denying what is before you. It just came out of nowhere. It seemed to rise up out of the shadow, as if Gavin's shadow has decided to step out of the ground and take stride next to him. This is unusual, but you've put enough distance between you and the main forces that it's time to be revealed, as it were.
Gavin, greets Vincent, And, his necrotic hand is, of course, sort of glowing and dripping that sort of black necrotic energy that it almost turns into raven feathers as it sort of floats to the ground. And he looks Vincent in the eyes, and your help is going to be quite necessary, but it will also put you and your friends, your companions, in peril of your bargain that you have struck. The blood of fiends is not all that is going to be shed today. There will be much human blood, humankind, elven kind, dwarven. It will be a test. Are we still a little bit far away for a second? Just
you have a degree of privacy. I mean, Vincent is quite a secretive, quiet individual, but
your resolve,
you can be seen easily.
Yeah, your resolve I'm not concerned about, but do keep an eye on the twins. They are still young.
He chuckles to himself, and even as that happens, sort of simply by speaking of the twins, you feel Lucas and Marcus become sort of corporeal. They come forth, and your number doubles as you go from 2 to 4, and then finally 3 more. And there are now Gavin stands as the 7th among 6 individuals who all wear a variety of dark clothing, but from a really different mixed background. You can see that the two male, 2 of the males look like twins. It's it's eerie. It's almost as if there's sort of the legend of vampires not having a mirror reflection, but these 2 certainly seem to bring that into question. They both seem a little bedraggled, but even in that nature, their hair, their clothing, everything is messed up in a nearly identical mirrored way. And they look forth. They have a certain savagery about them. The rest carry themselves with poise. These 2 do not. And they immediately sort of like take a steps away from the group and stare out at the desolate land. And they seem to chitter, giggle, whisper. They seem enraptured by this.
And we're all
place.
seeing this, right?
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say at this point you probably,
I'm pretty freaked out
at this
right now,
point, I would think, you probably were unmistakable.
And that was me thinking you're just a standard guy, Gavin. What's all this about, mate?
This is the rest of Hope's Returned. These are the sworn guard of the Raven Queen herself. And he sort of lifts his necrotic hand, which was gloved before. I serve 2 deities.
Oh, right. I don't suppose any else has any friends they have hiding in their shadows, because now would be an excellent time to reveal that. Just kind of look around everybody, like, anybody? Anyone at all? No? Okay, you're the only one, right.
Taking notes on the necrotic hand and Raven Queen, etc. My book and quill and bottle, and I'm trying to balance it all on top of Morty while I'm just like, this is fucking awesome.
I mean, at this point, seeing this, Aureus sees this and knows that these things aren't living; they're not alive. Mm-hmm. He breaks concentration on visibility, revealing himself as the Great Eagle, and he swoops down amongst the party, finding a place, hopefully creating a birth for him to land and to morph back into his human forms. The ravens close behind him. Upon landing, did I overhear Kasna say that does anyone else have any friends?
Yeah, I'm going to presume.
Okay, because I'm just like, okay, yeah. So basically, oftentimes I land and I regard the undead, and I look at Gavin. It was not what I expected. The unliving in the presence of you, one that brings life.
My life is also in service to balance. Yours is the balance of nature. Mine is of life and death itself. Fear not, my companions. They are what are known as the returned. They seek redemption by serving the Raven Queen so that their souls may regain entry into the afterlife.
So their souls are kept here by this Raven Queen.
She has control of all souls. Some she ferries into the ether instead of the lower or upper planes. They are cast off.
How does a man like you come to be with such a queen?
Fate, in the first place, and then through a journey, love brought me here. Cuthbert is about common sense and knowing that sometimes all life has a place and an order is part of that.
Oh, that's nice. Are your friends gonna, do anything weird? Eat anyone?
Part of their bargain is that they will not. However, I will say, I kind of look to the twins, it's a temptation unlike any that you've ever known for them to be around the slain humanity.
Okay, well, as long as they're not gonna eat me, lads, then fine by me, lad.
You will find they are most useful in battle. Fiendish blood does not tempt them the way as the blood of the others. So we will also, for their own comfort, keep ourselves somewhat separate from
No, please,
your
no,
people.
no, absolutely not. I dismount. No, She kind of regrets and tries to go back to her usual cool and detached self. That would be an absolute waste. Please. I kind of walk over, book and scroll in hand.
And as Zune is saying this, I say, "Silence, Darkskin. These are abominations. They bring no balance to life." And then I, with anger in my eyes, I have the power of nature by my side. I will show you what true allies are. And I bring out I summon a dryad and a satyr, and a few pixies and sprites, and a water element or earth elemental starts to crust and form in front of me as I concentrate and bring these things forth.
You watch.
Apparently, they're all more friends.
Well, firstly, can we drop this whole dark-skinned thing? It's really quite rude. We are standing right here. Secondly, have I been talking to a brick wall? I did just ask, does anybody else have any magical friends who'll come up from the ground? And now here we are. Does anybody, Gregor? Do you have some strange things going to come outside of the ground?
Oh, that's like all sorts of
you are
strange things
speaking-
growing, but nothing like that.
Kazna, as you're sort of giving your speech, the floor beneath you cracks, and you have to take a step to the side as something that is maybe somewhere in the region of, I'm going to say about 15 feet tall, lifts itself out of the ground. And you see Aureus' hand sort of extending, pointing, sort of grasping at the rock. And before you is this towering, hulking earth elemental that makes very little sound as like the rock grinds against rock. And it brings itself up entirely faceless and devoid of anything, any features, but vaguely humanoid build. And it stomps over to Aureus as from the ground, from this huge hole, pour forth these fairies, these dryads, these other things brought back from far, far beneath this cracked, barren wasteland, the nature that still clings to this land.
she's going to be very taken aback and kind of step back for a moment and then regain herself. Like this would all have been information that would have been fantastic to know about maybe half an hour ago when we first set out.
To what purpose? We just now are going about to get the information that our good friend Aureus gained while he was an eagle amongst the clouds. What did you see?
Well, call me crazy, dear friend, but I, for one, quite like to know when I could be walking around and then suddenly the ground beneath my feet will open up and out will come elementals and fae and fiends, and then suddenly your friends as well might come and join the fae. I'd quite like to know when these things might perhaps happen.
Now you do.
Well, I appreciate it.
Aureus regards Gavin and looks him dead in the eye and says, I turned into a great eagle and I scouted the skies of the path ahead of us. It seems there is some strange foul magic about, some nature type magic that is creating a long fissure in the earth, and it's moving ever so slowly and quietly as if to be stealthy. And behind it, it's creating these spikes of tremendous pointy edges that are pointing towards us as if to impede our path. I believe the fiends are trying to reroute us.
Well, is it battlements, perhaps fortification to keep us from making it to the fortress?
Perhaps, there are many spikes. Perhaps they are trying to change our initial path. I'm not sure, but this magic is meant to be stealthy and not heard.
How far away are we? I mean, can we see this wall of sharp rocks from where we are, Josh? I mean,
you can see it. It doesn't look nearly as imposing as it does from the air. From the air, you can see that it's not just like, it looks like it could be maybe a couple of meters deep. From the air, you know it's quite considerably deeper than that. And it's just, as you sort of climb up, that stuff is going to break off. It's going to create more jagged spikes. Moving through it is going to be like moving through broken glass. It's very nasty.
I tell Gavin it is about 4 miles away, but it seems to be approaching us at a slow pace. I was unable to scout more, but I found this information to be pertinent and was needed to be brought back to us before we advance any further. I could potentially scout out further to find a new path if we decide to do elsewise.
I'm trying to remember, Josh. We're like down in a basin, like, correct? I mean, are there high cliff walls way, way, way to the north and south?
To the south would be the coast, but further than you can see.
Right.
Pretty. There's like almost like a haze brought around by the heat and just dust clouds to sort of move across. But far to the east, you'll see this fortress, and far to the north, you'll see a mountain range, like in the extreme distance. Other than that, it's a huge plain of nothingness.
Right, but this battlement basically stretches miles, feet, yards. I mean, how
miles? It's gonna be one hell of a thing to get around, especially with a huge force.
So I wonder if it's not redirection as much as just a sword's edge that they're expecting us to fall upon. Much like when you hold off cavalry, you make a spike wall.
Hey, the wee bugger's having a mind for tactics, that's for sure. But what can we do about it? That's the question.
So, there's no way through it. There's no way under. Perhaps a way over?
I looked at the earth elemental. Is there, in fact, no way underneath of it?
Yes, the earth elemental does burrow. It can traverse if need be. However, this elemental can only be... I would have to bind this elemental with the help of some wizards. I could bind it for a long period of time, but this elemental cannot remain long.
We have some magic here, if that might help.
It would require me to rest, to commune with nature, to acquire the spells to do this ritual. I would need to summon a new elemental, and we would need to bind it and hold it in place so that I can control it.
I see.
I look behind us. How far behind us is the shadow?
You probably just see the army marching forward. They are coming forward slowly, but they are bringing sort of the edge of the shadow with it. You probably got about maybe about 20 minutes, and then you are going to start to run out of this
shadow. I look to the drow, and I motion to Vincent and the vampires and go, time is not with us, unfortunately. For us, we always knew we were a sacrifice. Do we think that with your current magics, my friend, and maybe some of our own, that we could at least make a hole, somehow make a path, even if it means our lives?
There's a moment when Vincent smiles and just says, if we break that line, we could indeed cause some terror amongst them.
Aye, a distraction. Buy the other some time. Now that's an idea I can get behind.
Vincent and his companions can find their way to the other side and make a hell of a distraction. While we, so at least, are just fighting the earth itself and not necessarily the fiends.
Aye.
Do your summoned creatures, Aureus, have the ability to traverse this terrain more easily than your average humanoid?
If we are to rest, I suggest that if this is the course of action, if we are to face this wall, these spiked walls, I assume they are made of magical source and stone.
We've completely negated the fact that there's no way underneath this, right?
No.
Unearth elemental kind of it doesn't leave any tunnel.
It doesn't leave a tunnel, I don't think, does it?
I'd love to dig, but
there's nothing that it had discovered for another way through, because like you said, we're in a basin like this. Okay, so that
yeah, ocean on one side, mountains on the other, wall in front, army behind.
We're doing well.
Palms sweating.
Hard place indeed.
Does it look
Session one.
we got this.
This is a
No
recap.
problem.
Does it look like something that could be shattered, perhaps? Or is it too thick and strong for that?
You look at it, you know it's one of those things, like, it's just if right. So if you imagine, like, you rush forward on this with a mass of people, imagine you are rushing forth towards 10-foot high shattered glass that all the spikes point outwards towards you. Trying to break through that's going to be a nightmare. You look to that. Roll me just an intelligence. Just an intelligence check.
Oh, that's fine. I'm a smart woman. No, I'm not. That's a save. Wait, hang on. Wrong one. Do we need to redo it? Wait. How do I just roll just pure intelligence?
Just check on your core stat. So just where it says intelligence.
Yeah, just click on intelligence, the word.
There we go.
There we go. I'm going to give it to you because it's, there's a moment, it's a hesitation, looking for this. And then there's just a slight shift and quite loud bang for how quiet it is out here. As you see, and Aureus will see this as well, an earth elemental pounding its fist into its other fist as it looks towards this wall. Earth elementals are siege creatures. When it comes to destroying structures, anything like that, they wreck house.
So I'd imagine that it had a pretty good chance of storming it.
It could probably, you could probably. You need something large that it isn't going to be affected by being cut and shredded to ribbons. This definitely looks like the tool for the job.
So I will turn to Aureus to say, your friend, the big one, I do believe perhaps he can be of help, though tunneling may not be so. Perhaps a way through.
Perhaps, yes. I would need to. It would be. I could potentially have 2 at service, but I would need time. I would need rest and time to readjust. I could easily get some tools.
How much
Could this
time?
one not just, because I am unfamiliar with your practices, could this one not just walk towards it and do its thing?
The one I've summoned now will only last for merely an hour.
Then
You
let's
can
do it.
get there in an hour.
Hey, we got time.
But from what comes on the other side, you've no idea how long you are going to need it.
We gotta make a choice either way. Time's running thin. And that's
How much
gonna
time
run
would
out
you
of
where
shadow.
you would think you need to summon more or a more permanent one? Are we talking minutes or hours?
Hours. I would need to take 4 hours rest.
No way.
We don't have
cannot
that
be
kind of
done.
time.
Hmm.
I think we are going.
Take a chance.
I will be able to conjure 2 earth elementals, but that would be it. Each one would last up to an hour, but they will not reside in my command for long. And earth elementals that I summon may not take too kindly once I lose the concentration after an hour. They will remain. Whether or not they will be friendly to us, I do not know.
Take this one, send it to attack the wall, and get as far through as it can, and I will attempt to blast by lightning the rest of the way.
I do say we go now. What happens will happen, and we will meet it when it comes on the other side.
Worst case scenario, we all die anyway, so...
If
Not me.
we do not treat nature and the earth correctly, when I lose concentration, it may turn on us. We must treat these with
Then
delicacy.
dismiss it right before.
It will remain. It does not happen that way.
Either we go now, or this rock wall kills us all, or the sunlight does. Either way, it
Aye.
doesn't look good.
Yeah.
I agree with
I'm
this course
losing
of
more
action.
beard here anyway, about a second.
Let's
You
One
are
of-
molting.
one-
It is quite
I
disgusting.
am.
let
One
us
of Gregor's men just chuckles at him darkly.
let us proceed. And as I said, Vincent and his companions can certainly attempt to lessen what might pour through once the hole is made, if we're able to make it at all. I might be able to assist some as well.
Very well. We'll use my elemental magics and the elements to break through this wall. However, it is imperative that you do not let me break concentration on these. As I said, we do not want to have to deal with an elemental earth. It is of great power.
We will protect you, bird boy. Do not worry.
Hey, you can lick your trees.
Okay. Well, you guys are gonna push your way forward then. The earth elemental just has its marching orders and begins to move forward with quite some steam. It easily starts to outpace you guys and head straight at this wall. And as you guys you probably closing 600, 500 feet as it meets the wall, and it doesn't break pace at all. It just runs headlong, throws all of its weight into it, spreads its arms and sort of windmills. It goes for maximum damage, and the wall detonates with shards. If you guys were probably closer, maybe within 100, 200 feet, you guys would have been peppered, lacerated beyond belief as this thing hammers its way through. And it sort of staggers through, and then you watch as it seems to freeze in place. And as it does, you will be able to see this Aureus. In fact, everyone will be able to make this out. It is locked there, arms spread, in almost, I'm trying to think of the name of the famous Da Vinci painting, the man.
Oh, yeah, the man with the
Thingy
circles.
Vitruvian.
Man.
Yeah.
Vitruvian man.
Vitruvian man.
Yeah, the Vitruvian man, indeed. So it's sort of spread like that. It seems to have come screeching to a halt, and you can make out cracks appearing in it. There's a long pause where you guys are sort of like gaining on this hole, this breach, and from the other side, you see something emerging. It's almost impossible to make it out from here. But give me a perception check to see what you can glimmer about this.
I don't think I'm very perceptive. I'm not very perceptive at all.
Gavin's pretty perceptive, but not today.
Not today.
Don't worry. Aureus is
He's got it.
No.
You're on the ball.
The guy's an eagle.
Yeah.
I've got a plus 14 perception modifier. We're good.
Yeah. Druid knows things. Druid sees all things.
Druid very well.
So, Gavin,
what do your druid
Gavin,
eyes see?
Indeed. Gavin, you can't make it out past everyone. Sort of like there's just chaos ahead. Same unfortunately for Gregor. There's just chaos. You are clearly being outpaced by the paladins, clerics, and indeed the Hope's Return, who have sort of like branched out on either side, free on either side. The twins and Vincent traveling together, him seeming to keep them in check. They move forward and don't seem to be able to see it. They're heading straight at the unbroken rock. They look like they're planning to scale it and let you guys move through.
I was going to say, they can misty through, right?
Yep,
Vampires can.
They have their ways.
Yeah.
From the back, the two drow, you guys see something dark on the other side, almost like shadow. It's seemingly, it's hard to make out. At first, you sort of almost see that it looks like it is the shadow of this creature, but it seems to just be hovering in the air in front of it. And unfortunately, the elemental is directly in the way, but you can make out cracks appearing in this thing. And where it's made of giant masses of stone that are sort of like held together by magic, you can see the stone start to separate, almost as if it's coming apart in places.
Can I roll an Arcana to figure out what kind of construct this is?
You can indeed.
Nice.
As you do that, Aureus, you can see whatever this thing is, it has stopped an earth elemental dead, a charging earth elemental at full speed. That is not a good thing in any way, and whatever it is, it lurks just on the other side of these makeshift battlements, and you can almost feel the pain of this creature as it is being torn apart. From behind you, you can already hear war horns sounding. The army is now starting to move at quite a speed. It takes a little time for your forces to get going, but once they do, you keep moving or you are trampled by the forces you travel with. So they are building and building and building momentum. They are coming forth into this line. There's still some ways behind you. They're not going to be on you instantly. But as you do, you will see that this earth elemental starts to break away. Laura, Zune feels something very, very dark on the other side. Whatever this is magic unlike anything you've ever really come across. This is sheer hatred. This is a pure black abyss on the other side. This is violence and death, and it is powered almost like necrotic magic. It has a familiarity, but there's something wrong with it. It's not that kind of fun, pure death that you're used to. Whatever this is, it is mostly hatred and anger and the unresting souls of something. And this earth elemental is going to explode outwards in every direction, just as the wall did just moments before. And on the other side is a creature of equal size, made entirely of shadow.
I look over to Gavin, and I think your queen is making some sort of appearance.
This is not of my queen. In fact, can I use divine sense?
Mm-hmm.
This is tainted undeath, if such a thing could exist.
You pretty much, I think, already gave me the answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever this is, you're not quite. Actually, you wouldn't be.
I know whether it's a fiend or undead. That's the only new information we might have. I know type.
You get that it is something between a fiend and the undead.
Great! It's an undead fiend.
Yes,
the thing that's causing the war that we're fiighting. Yeah. Awesome.
Well, no, we didn't know. We knew it was fiends. We didn't know it was an undead fiend.
Yeah, whatever this is, it is huge, and it's standing there. It seems to be formless, almost like oil, like liquid. It's humanoid shape, but quite bulky, and it shifts. It's almost It's it's the best way to describe it is an oily creature of vaguely humanoid proportions of the blackest of black liquid. And as you move forward, you see figures appearing all along the line. They start to appear from crevices, from cracks in the ground. They are pale, they are chalky, they are covered in dirt and grime from the land, caked in ash. It appears they have been hiding in the very rocks itself. And you watch as a huge force appears sort of on this battlement, and you watch hands burst with flame. You have an entire army of casters that have just appeared on the battlements, and you have no cover. The only cover you have is the hole that has just been cased, and in front of you there is this creature which opens its mouth and sound just cuts out. There is absolute nothing. Everyone give me a wisdom saving throw.
Can I not?
Can
I just win?
Aw, come on.
Where it is? Where's the... Oh, great! I'm also really, really wise. Not. Oh God, no,
Ooh,
I am.
nice, look at
Never
that.
mind. I'm the wisest.
Damn it.
Indeed.
That's my second one today.
I was gonna say
Wait,
bloodlust kicking in. You don't care
I ain't
nothing
giving
about
them.
no.
You ain't messing with me today,
I don't
sir.
mean to roll that. 15
Wow.
is what I rolled.
That's impressive. That's
yeah, I
impressive.
rolled a 1600.
Man, you rolled really well.
And that's the year I was born.
So you guys look forth. Louise, you are okay, and you get a
good.
flavor of what this is whilst still not faltering. I'm also going to give you that the only way you're going to survive this is to move forward or back, and back you are running from the attackers. If you run forward, you're running into cover where they will most likely ambush you. This is the worst possible situation.
Okay.
And you can see into this thing's maw. It is empty. It is the void. Whatever this thing is, it is something of absolute crushing, immense darkness and emptiness.
That's
Anyone
good.
who rolled below a 18, which is everyone bar Louise and Squall,
Oh, no.
you feel utter dread. Whatever this thing is, it is the end. It is the beginning. It is nothingness and endless as time and space. It is essentially a black hole. And caught between your advancing forces, being ambushed, surrounded in a barren plain, we are unfortunately going to have to leave Aureus there for now. So,
Oh, no.
thank you very much, everyone, for coming along. It's been wonderful, and it's simply the first step in a much longer march. This is a big battle coming up. So next week, if you want to see some serious fighting going down and
This was
some hell on earth,
Yes, this was the short jog. The campaign itself will be the. This was the brisk walk.
The gentle stroll.
The gentle stroll down a mountaintop hill. Yes, well, that's all good wrapping up tonight's episode, my friend. Episode 1 of The Long March. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please do let us know in chat. I'd love to see what you guys were thinking of tonight's session. And of course, if you enjoyed the show, hit that follow button and join us. Looks like 100 of you guys followed today. That's awesome. A quick plug for myself before I go around the cast and crew and you guys go and follow these people. If you haven't signed up to my Thunderclap yet, please do so. It's, oh my fucking god, it's under a week until our Kickstarter launches. The Breath of Gore is a D&D5E and Pathfinder role-playing game module coming to Kickstarter Monday the 26th. It's got not only its own adventure and a ton of sexy artwork as well, its own world setting and lore and history. So check it all out there, my friends, and sign up to Thunderclap. You can sign in with Facebook or Twitter or Tumblr. And when you sign up on June 26th, a message will go out from your account saying, look, the fucking Breath of Gore is on Kickstarter. And currently our social reach on Breath of Gore is 78,000 people, so hopefully we can get that number up even higher. But my plug out of the way, let's go around the cast and crew. Did we enjoy ourselves? Where can we find you guys online? And all that good shit. Let's start with Josh, our Dungeon Master.
Yeah, that was intense. It's the first episode of the campaign. This is going to be a long-running thing, so it's always a lot of narrative and a lot of background. So thank you for everyone for sticking with me as I lay the land. But there is a lot more out there to explore, and it's going to be interesting because the party members, I can't honestly expect them to know everything about the world around them. So discovering what they know, what they've been through along the years through the war is going to be fun. And there's also quite an epic battle that is going to happen next week. It's going to be one of those things where a lot of people are going to die. A lot of people are going to die. So I'm very excited about that. I'm very excited about the sheer chaos, the carnage, but a little bit of a slower burn this week. So I just want to say thank you to everyone in chat who's sent me messages and stuff over the past few days and during the session. And you
were super nervous, dude. Don't worry, you're good now.
Yeah.
Dude, it was awesome.
Dude,
nailed it.
Dude,
bro.
Yeah. Dude.
If you guys don't know what happens, then there's a new thing on the website, which will be there. It's a new feature of season 4. Exclamation point recap. Not all of them are up yet for the show. We've got one is just being finished in like 20 minutes. It'll get done. But they're basically short paragraphs of what happened last time in every session on every show. So if you're like, what happened previously? You don't want to go watch a fucking 3-hour-long video on YouTube, which of course you can do. Then the recaps will be there, just a short paragraph like, these people did this is where we are now. And so that's just a nice, easy way to drop in. Let's go to Laurelania. What do you think?
I am really excited, especially since there are other undead friends that I get to chat with. That is, I can't wait to learn more about the twins. And also, why you have a necrotic hand? What the fuck?
Yeah, just casually,
Oh, man.
That's cool. So
the mixed vibes of the party is wonderful. Like, this isn't going to be a typical hero campaign. It was so fun to watch you.
I've been waiting for a campaign like this, honestly, for like 10 years. I'm so tired of saving the princess and all this stuff, and that's why I've been playing the cleric in every campaign, because I knew that someday my time would come.
Your day would come.
You paid your dues.
A very Ravenlofty type feel of evil and death and awesomeness. So I am super hyped for this campaign, and also finding more about these vampire people. You, Queen Raven friend, what is your deal? Deal, man.
Gavin's interesting.
Oh yeah,
got some stuff.
Gavin's like my favorite D&D character ever. I think I've played with, so I fucking love him. Fantastic. Let's go to Talk School. We did Talk School? No, we didn't do Talk School.
Dude, I love this. You know me. I love the big story, man. I'm all about the big story, the hard RP. I'm really looking forward to Gavin and Zune because the Raven Queen is not very kind about just random people making undead. She has these very chosen few who have come to her and for whatever reason earned her whatever respite to be able to have serve penance to her basically. And so there's definitely going to be some interesting interaction between Zune's necromancy and Gavin's Raven Queen, because she's not about undeath. She's all about death is a part of life. I ferry them over, and when time comes, you don't argue with her.
Yeah. Zune's all about becoming a lich and living forever. Never crossing over.
I'm loving that. We have that. I mean, it's gonna be great. I love that Gavin has this balance thing going on, and Aureus has a balance, his balance of nature thing. I think that's gonna get very interesting. So, the party dynamic is great. What an incredible backdrop you've drawn for us, man. I love it.
Oh yeah, this is awesome. It's very scary.
I can't wait. I know I was trying to get you more of Hope's Return, all of the different members of it to you, but
don't worry, I've got things planned. I'm not going to say things have already started, but things have already started.
Oh, of course they have. So I look forward to finding out the people who I haven't sent you, other ones that you're filling in, and I still might send you some more as I've had some ideas throughout the week. So But no, I love it. I love it. I love the big story, man. Give me the deep lore.
Awesome.
Yeah, a lot of fun so far, so it's good. I was pretty excited about this character, especially knowing that there was. I've read some of the other character sheets and I saw all the undead stuff, so I was like, this is going to be great for Aureus. A great time.
Good stuff.
Yeah,
it's one of those things like in a land that is so screwed by this is one of the things I said to Arrow, where everything is so gone to shit. Nothing like the druid is king, because anyone who can like actually make land that is fertile, that can be, food is grown, there's going to be famine, there's loads of things wrong with the world at the moment. So a druid has such potential. So I'm really excited to see what someone of such devout beliefs going to do with all that power.
Yeah. Awesome. And Louise.
She might be.
Oh,
Louise is.
that's your name.
Dude, I have to. I've bloody enjoyed it. My internet is also dying right now,
Gotcha.
so that's fine. But so is my soul. But everything's fine. No, I super enjoyed today. Like, as soon the day that you messaged us on the chat, I was like, oh, this is what I have. The idea I have for a campaign. I was like, yes, immediately. Let's do it right now. Let's forget waiting.
Yeah.
Let's cancel everything. Let's just go right here, right now. I'm super excited for where it's going to go. It's such a good start. Well done. Good job. Great. Well, cool. Words. If you wanted to find me and more of me and my things, you can follow me on the Twitter zone at No More No Less. That's a fun time. Fun for everyone. And I've started streaming again because my hand is healed enough to do so. So you can find me on the Twitchers, and things are good there. And you look like you have a point to say.
I do indeed. There is something that.
Oh my
for those
God,
of you
is
stuck
there?
around? Yeah, there's something else. So
Crazy.
there is a sneaky little thing. Speaking of Louise is going to be helping make a map of the world. So we'll have a new backdrop for the next stage of the campaign, and it's going to sort of lay the land and make sort of landmarks a little bit more recognizable, and it's going to do some stuff along the way, which we plan loads of cool little bits to add in for give it some real flavor. So
It's gonna be good.
I'm super excited. And if you guys want to see the
what I have to go off.
amazing artwork,
This is what I've been
look
given.
at that. Look at that
wow.
artwork. I'm a natural born artist. So yeah.
Don't need Louise, man.
Right.
Fantastic. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us today. The Long March has been a long expected episode, I know, on the channel. Lots of you guys specifically been excited to watch this one. It's been another fucking awesome day. I had a lot of fun streaming with Arvin Elleron. Shout out to Arvin again. He is doing an awesome Middle-earth campaign over there that I'm playing in every Tuesday at 12 p.m. till 3. Then shout out again to our sponsors, Lost Artifacts of Gregor on Kickstarter. There's still a couple of hours to go and join in the fun on that one. They've already smashed through all their stretch goals. Also, Jim fucking Sterlingson was here earlier, and that was like a personal big spaff off for me. And now this game as well, which is just fucking awesome and exactly how I like playing D&D. So thank you guys so much. I'll be back on tomorrow at 1 p.m. for Call of Cthulhu Horror on the Orient Express, season 2 of that show coming along. So really excited for that, followed by the Tales from the Yawning Portal as we head into a new adventure with that one as well. So I'm looking forward to getting to that, guys. Thank you again, and I'll drop the Fun Account link again in case you haven't signed up and you want to. But until next time, my friends, try not to roll too many nat ones. We're going to be laughing when you do. Good night, everybody. Oh, and I'm going to go host Skagov in a second. We'll see you over there. Hey!
Yeah, Skagos.
See you guys in a bit. Bye-bye.